I might get flamed for this a little bit. I have 30.
Oh my
I
god.
knew.
No
I
way.
honestly thought. I honestly knew you were going to do
I have
this.
30, man. I gotta have 30. Slayer.
No
Slayer
way.
leaving means he has
Player
32.
has
TDS,
30
you
as
wanna
well.
go?
Yeah, I'll go
I
here.
don't.
Oh, he does
Oh,
have
he
30.
doesn't.
I
Okay.
think that's stupid. I think that's stupid. I have Faisal. Faisal is my
Yeah.
guy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Salt Mine. We've got a four-person panel back on for Season 2, Episode 7, fresh off the end of the NACL regular season. My name is Gordo. I'm joined by Slayer, Bonfire, and TDS on today's episode. Welcome to the show, guys, as we have rounded out a real big season of the NACL here. We've had more promotions to the LCS, I feel like, this split than we have had in quite a while, or at least more successful ones with, Insanity and APA. And we're going to count our Mayo, too, all coming up in LCS. Our boy Shaden also moving up to play his first LCS game just today. We are recording this Wednesday night after the LCS just started. So, been a real
You
successful
weren't late for
season,
that
I
one,
think.
right?
What was that, TDS?
For the first time, we're not late on a promotion. Like last time, we were late
True.
on. I think technically both. So this time
All of
around,
them.
True, true. We're like right on time. We're about as on time as we were with Spyrax. When it was Spyrax, we were
yeah.
recording while he debuted. At least now we're like a little bit late to the Shaden debut. So, been a lot of fun. How you guys feel about the season overall, given that fact? I feel like it's done a lot for the perception of the NACL. I feel like people are really starting to turn around on NA talent. I know I say this every year, but it feels like it might really be true this time, especially with how well the mid laners in particular have been able to do.
Yeah, I just think it's an overall win for like everybody right now. It feels like the NACL. I don't know the exact viewership statistics, so statistically I don't know if it's a win. It feels like there's more people watching the NACL. And also the fact that they have the revenue share on subs is also just helpful to the teams. I think the talent, the crew, and the talent around the NACL have done a lot of good jobs to really engage a lot of people. Obviously, Gordo talked about the players getting promoted as well, and you're starting to see the ripple effect. And there's already talks about what certain LCS teams should do to get more North American oriented. I know I've had my fair share with Bonfire over there about his Liquid squad, and I'm sure we're really heading out of the NACL on a high note, and the only way to crush it will be the offseason. And while I
Yeah.
am scared that something in the offseason could crush it, it's fun to come out of it up at least.
Yeah, it feels like, especially with how FlyQuest has been doing this split in their main team, that like surely people start to recognize that homegrown talent is where it's at. You know, the failure of Vikla, and how Piosik and Summit on Team Liquid have been meh, Ruby's been meh. Like foreign talent isn't always better, and I hope teams start to recognize that. I will say we're never gonna get to an all NA LCS. It's just not possible, or plausible, I suppose. But realistically, I think that there's starting to be a niche community built for the NACL, and I do think that the success of APA and JoJo even kind of starting the trend, Blabber, and then also like every single time there's an MVP for the LCS, vote for your MVP. It's all like 4 or 5 of them have been in Academy. So I think people are really starting to recognize it, and this is how we win worlds, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a good step forward.
Yeah. No, on that subject, right? Not just the fact that, NA talent can compete, but I feel like what really kind of struck me this last week, and it was kind of after watching Spyrax, and now I think it's been reaffirmed watching Shaden today. Like at this point, look at the players who have kind of touched both leagues throughout this season, right? APA, Insanity, Balulu, Eminus, Haunter, Wild Turtle, Unforgiven, Winsome, Tomo,
Wild Turtle.
Diamond, all these guys. Like, there's been like a fifth of the league has gone back and forth throughout this season already. And almost all of them are the same freaking dudes that they were in NACL. It's like it really doesn't feel like a lot of players are having like this crazy adaptation period where like you show up to the LCS and it's a totally different game and you got to sink or swim and the whole narrative that it feels like has built up around the years about how, LCS is a totally different ball game from NACL really doesn't seem like that. Really seems like mid to low tier LCS is pretty dang close to high tier NACL, and hopefully people start to really realize that, and that could give some more mobility between the two levels and make it much easier for star players to emerge through this dev system.
Well, one thing that kind of it's good, it's the fact that they are also realizing that if you put someone to fail, they are likely to fail. Like, don't we cannot now obviate the fact that a lot of the talents that were popping up were debuting on IMT, on Dignitas, on like teams that were doomed to fail anyway. So if they are doomed to fail, they kind of were already put in a tough spot. But now that at the very least, I would put like barring Spyrax, which debuted in a 3 and I don't remember the scoreboard, like a really low fly quest, and I don't think his debut was bad even then. That is, the others are debuting on EG that is doing good enough, so they don't really worry about Shading doing bad or good. Same for APA debuting in a team that was middling, but the talent there was good enough that if they changed things, it was going to go upwards. And I think TL was going to get towards playoffs anyway, so it's a team that at the very least wasn't in a doom spot. And then TSM, even though they are not the most like, and I don't think their situation is the best, they debuted him at the start of the split, which you cannot go into something doomed when you're 0-0. Like, you're at the very least starting neutral. So TSM did start in a good spot for Insanity, and the bar was so low after as well because of how bad Ruby was. Like, I'm surprised Bonfire said Ruby was mad. Ruby was shit. I'll just go out and say it. He was really bad.
Tell me how you
and
really feel.
Insanity, yeah, like I'm sorry, but Ruby was not even close to what I would expect for anyone playing in LCS to go for. And Insanity was able to prompt that up. So overall, I think that the situation also improved in the players that were tried out, and it's just not the doom situation that a lot of others were debuted on. And to add on top of that, also quickly with the NACL situation, I also like the fact that we're coming into the realization that second division shouldn't worry too much about the eyes that are on them, because the eyes that should be on them should be the team's eyes, not really the people's eyes. That, like, there is a clear difference in that, and that's something that in football you don't really see the second division that much. You see if you're off the city, realistically, or if your team got relegated there, because in football there is relegations. But apart from that, and I'm gonna make the distinction, by the way, football/soccer. There is relegation, so you do get the opportunity to see your team there. But in here, you really have to focus on the fact that teams have to be the ones looking at you and willing to try you out. Not really the people. The people are an extra if you can get it, but really the factor here is trying to prompt them up by the teams.
Yeah, I think also kind of going off that, I like that you talked about TL and TSM just because I think that it's almost a perfect middle ground of like these talents aren't being put on terrible teams where they're doomed to fail. They're not being put on great teams because, look, as much as I love M&S, there's just no way, no matter how poorly he did, Cloud9 was going to fail. It's the middle ground, right? APA had an immediate impact. Insanity had an immediate impact. TSM's not where they're at without Insanity. And realistically, TL was kind of floundering around with Harry in the mid lane. So I do think it's cool to see that these players are being put on teams where they have an opportunity to make an impact, rather than being just, oh, they're going to succeed no matter what, or they're going to fail no matter what.
Yeah, definitely agree there. And we're going to get into our all-pro teams in a second here just to highlight, 15 best players of probably a little bit more, actually, because there's no way we have the exact same 3 dudes in every role. So going to be a lot of players to talk about, and that's going to take up a lot of time. I do want to talk about one other thing really quick before we get into that, though, which is kind of just a personal rant, but I'm sure you guys are going to have takes, too. So, Team Fish Taco swapped top laners this last week. Lunacia just vanished, and Soul came in. And regardless of their performance, there's no public statement anywhere about why this change was made, what's going on with Lunacia, right? Like, was it his choice? Was it the team's choice? Was it known in advance and, like, a big team decision? Was it an emergency and Lunacia is going to be back for the relegation tournament? No idea. And that's bananas to me. Like, ostensibly, right? This is like a team that wants to build like a brand and a fan base, and I have no idea how you expect fans to give a shit about your team if players just vanish and nobody says anything. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say this is what happens when you don't have PR or like an org. This is what I was concerned about with Cincinnati Fear when they first came in, but they handled it really well last split. But this is just like, I mean, you need an org. You need somebody behind you who's gonna make sure that you don't get into PR nightmares, and I don't think TFT has that.
They're still tweeting too. They're like posting
Yeah.
clips and being like, "Root for us today, guys," but like like completely ignoring the fact that us is 20% different than it was last week. It's so strange.
Yeah, like I guess like if you want to do the benefit of the doubt thing, the only scenario in my head that I think makes somewhat sense to them not making an update is that they quite literally couldn't find Lunacia. At first, that's what I thought could be the issue, and they don't want to tweet out like, "Oh, hey, we haven't heard from Lunacia. Just so you guys know, we know nothing. Just like you don't know," because that could cause like maybe a panic or
Harry
something
Cow is
like
a
that.
missing person right now,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
Only the Derrick Rose.
Yeah, something like that. But like at this point, us not having heard anything makes like zero sense. Like that was like maybe grasping at straws that was the issue on maybe like Saturday after their first game of that set. But yeah, it's just kind of inexcusable by this point. So either something is really wrong or somebody's just really lazy. That's all it really is at this point.
Well, yeah, and it's not like you have to do the tell-all like confessional, right?
No.
Of like these are
Yeah.
the exact details of what's happening. Just be like, you could just be like, there's a situation, and we're putting in Soul. Like you would be that vague if you really
Personal
want
reasons.
to.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, like, because I haven't checked their Twitter. Do they even say
No,
they're going to play
literally
Soul
nothing.
instead of
No.
Lunacia?
No, Soul's name
Yeah,
is
yeah.
nowhere. They have the pinned tweet with the roster still that still says it's Lunacia. Soul's name is not mentioned anywhere on their Twitter. Soul doesn't mention anything on his Twitter. There's nothing
Well,
on
Soul
Lunacia's
retired
Twitter.
technically.
Yeah,
Soul
yeah.
was retired until last week, so
Yeah.
Maybe they were
I'm not
just
even
hoping
sure
nobody
what
would
he's doing.
notice.
kind of,
Hold
I
on a
guess.
second. Something's off about this TFT team. I can't put my finger on it.
Maybe Soul and Lunacia were the same player all this time, and that's why EG was doing
Maybe
bad.
the real Lunacia was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, I
Has
don't
to be
know.
something
So
like that.
that's super confusing to me. I have no idea what's going on with Lunacia. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up. I just wanted to say, Team Fish Taco, what's going on there, guys? Like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of the some of the representatives of the org, at least the people that I know. Good dudes, really communicative. So there's something going on there, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, something must have happened because it clearly affected what they were thinking about in all the weekend, since they looked completely and absolutely lost in every game.
Second
this
06,
weekend.
baby. It's been achieved.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Speaking
have
of
so
that,
many things I want to say, but I hate them. So no.
well, before TDS lights an org on fire here. Speaking of 06, I did want before we get into all pros congratulate the first 6 O's, and there's 2 of them. So congrats to Fly
Which
C
one was
and
quicker?
Fear. That's the funny thing. I don't know which one. I want to say it was Fly C because I know they were about 10 minutes ahead of Fear's game. So I think FlyQuest had the first 6-0, but it was quite
Okay.
literally by 15 or 20 minutes,
That sounds fair.
which
That's-
is crazy because we haven't had one all year.
Yep.
Or split, excuse me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't TLC, which is the funniest part, right? Like
Oh,
the
they
number
love their-
one
they love
team
their
actually
5-1s.
never 6-0.
They love their
Never
5-1s.
6-0.
5-5-1s.
Yeah.
Huge.
It's 5-5-1s and a 2-4. That's how they roll.
That's their season.
You ignore the 2-4.
It was 2-4, right? That was their worst week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2-4, the worst they did.
All right. Well, that's all I wanted to say. That's the only mention Team Fish Taco is going to be getting in today's episode. I'll tell you that much.
How
So-
funny would it have been if we just didn't mention it, just like they hadn't?
Well, yeah, but as one last point, I don't think the broadcast knows either. I was like combing
Nope.
through the broadcast trying to see if they had some kind of announcement there, and they were just like, "Yeah, Soul's coming in. So what do we think about Soul?" And so it's like, And that, no flame to them, obviously. It's even if they know, it's not on them to break the news, but
Right.
it's very
right.
strange. All right. Well, with that drama aside, just because there's not going to be a good chance to address it later, and it's going to be old news by the time we're back next week in a more regular format. Let's get into some of our all-pro teams. Love to keep this going after our first split. Just have everybody talk about who their top 3 players are in every role. It's a fun conversation that we get to have around LCS every split when it happens. And in NACL, it's kind of limited more to just the most valuable prospect, and that's about it. So wanna seize an opportunity here to give more broad of a view towards who we feel like the top prospects are in each specific position, from top to bottom. So I figure let's, whoever wants to go first can say like their first candidate, and then we'll talk about them and say where we rate them. And then as we go through, if we have people who have rankings that haven't been addressed, bring them up, and I'll figure out a good way to convey this with a graphic in the video afterwards.
I was gonna say, do we want to do bottom to top?
First?
Ooh,
yeah,
we can do bottom to top. That could be spicy. Let's do bottom to top, sure.
Because then there's a little mystery. It's more fun.
Sure.
Mystery,
I mean, but if somebody else mentions somebody else's first, I think we're gonna have to confess that. But yeah, I mean that could be fun. Sure. That's a good idea, Slayer. All right, how about you lead us off? Give us your number 3. Let's start off with the top lane. Let's go top to bottom.
Okay.
Top to bottom in roles, bottom to top in ranks.
Okay. So you want me to just go? Okay. It's gonna get spicy right off the bat, folks. So
sounds good.
I hope you know that. My third all-pro top laner is the relegation tourney bound Quacker.
Ooh.
I'm putting Quacker as the third team all-pro. That's probably my spiciest hit. I'll just keep rolling through because I'm sure we're gonna talk about this. Perry is my third team jungler from Fear. And then I have the DSG boys. Young is the mid laner. Arrow is my AD carry on the third team from TLC, and then Kim Down is support. So the TLC bottom lane is third team bot. Young, the DSG mid laner, Perry from Fear, and Quacker from Supernova. So that's
all right.
That's my third team all pro.
Cool. Let's go like one by one roles here and chat about them as we get through. To round out top, I have Quacker third team as well. Actually, I'm right on board, baby. I gotta give it to him.
The Slayer Gordo same pick.
It is,
continues.
Dude. So my big criteria for all team all pro top laners and I feel like my 3 guys are the only 3 guys I can really say this about are. They're top laners who you can actually like play through and have a chance at successfully winning a game through snowballing through top. I feel like there's a lot of top laners in the league who you can develop leads through, but there's very few, maybe 4 arguably, who you can like reliably win through and convert those leads across the rest of the map. I think Quacker's one of those dudes. I mean, if you're going to win a game on Supernova, it's going to be because Quacker's popping off. He's got like the highest KP percent other than Surdy for any top laner. He's super crucial to that team's success. Yeah, and I mean, if we were giving out Rookie of the Split as well, I would also give that to Quacker. He's had a monstrous first split in the NACL, and if I'm someone like AoE, or if I'm a team whose top laner gets called up to the LCS next split, I'm looking at Quacker, because I'm not so confident about their ability to remain in the NACL, but I think Quacker should still be there.
Okay. I guess I'll say mine, because I don't have Quacker, so we can talk about why I don't have Quacker. I have Zamudo. I think did take a little bit of a step back from that, last split, and wasn't the best player, but I still think was head and shoulders above most of the rest. And I don't think we hear Big Z's name enough, and so I want to give credit where credit is due. I've got Zamudo, and that's nothing against Quacker. It was a really tough decision for me. I just think Zamudo had some better performances, and I think that showed some really good champions, and so I got it with Zamudo.
See, that's what's over here.
I was thinking Quacker as well originally, but I'm
you're
glad that there's
coward.
a slight divide between colors and PvPs, because I also put Zamudo third.
Oh man! What is this?
Yeah, like I couldn't put him higher because I do think that there's 2 better than him, but he's been performing really well with Wildcard. First split in the NACL, doing an amazing job. Didn't take much to adapt. Has a really nice pool to play around with, and I do think that the dip that a wildcard has taken recently has close to nothing to do with him in my eyes. I feel like he's been still the most consistent or one of the most consistent members in that team. And if he stays in wildcard, he's going to do great. But I would guess that he's going to go higher next split as well.
So
Yeah.
my thing with
So
Zamudo is
okay, yeah.
I think he just dies in side lanes too much. I think that's really that's really my sole reason for leaving Zamudo off the list. I think he's my favorite player in the NACL. I love all the crazy off the wall picks. I love the trajectory he's on. Big trajectory guy. The best players for LCS always end up being these guys who just kind of come out of nowhere and have great runs. Zamudo's in that category, fresh off his training with LS, having only really played like a split of amateur before. I'm really excited for him coming into the future, but yeah, I don't know. I think he's just not quite there. He's always like an inch away from making some bananas play where he like solo kills the opponent, or he like 1v2s and trades back. He's often so very close to that and doesn't quite get there. If he can start turning those plays into successful ones, I think he'll be like a top tier top laner. I just think he's not quite there yet, and he's gonna be just barely off my list.
Yeah, Zamudo came in as my fourth too. Like if I made like an honorable mentions,
He'd be fifth for
roster, he would be fourth for me. My thing is the logic, because Gordo obviously highlight a lot of the points that I like about Quacker and why he's above him, but from a simplistic perspective of when you look at Supernova versus Wildcard, I think one thing that we all, maybe we don't all agree on it, but I definitely agree on it. It kind of alludes to my later picks, is that Zamudo I don't think is the most important player on Wildcard, or wasn't this split. And I think Quacker is far and away the most important player on Supernova. And even if you think it's Zamudo on Wildcard, Quacker is so much more integral to the success of Supernova in a game than Zamudo can be. And for that pure reason, I put him up there. Also, the fact that he can also bust out. I mean, he played a diverse amount of champions too. Not Zamudo level, but he started out dominating a couple of games on Supernova, playing like tank. He played Cassante, had a lot of really good games, and then he finishes the split playing like Tryndamere and having a pretty good game. I mean, he's partial. I'm pretty sure it was a Renekton game. The one game they won last week against.
Yeah, it was like
Disguise.
I remember he had a huge Renekton game.
He had a huge, he was like 2-0-1 at like 10 minutes or like 12 minutes or something like that. He's the only reason Supernova were able to get out of the early game and scale in to win that game. So if anybody at home listening doesn't think Quacker should be here, I implore you to go back in the VODs and watch Supernova's one win of week 6 against Disguise, because he is quite literally the reason.
That's why I don't think Quacker deserves to be here. 11-25. Team record has to matter at some
top
point.
lane does not matter, man.
I don't. This is very much a professional sports kind of thing that I'm taking over. But like, if you are the second to worst team in the league, you're just. I mean, he's my fourth, but I think that like you just can't be. There's just no way.
But he was so good despite how bad. Like, what plays outside of Supernova on the rest of the roster do you remember that wasn't a Quacker play? Like, people remember Keel plays, people remember Soligo plays, but nobody cares.
Gordo's whole argument of you could play and win through through that lane, and then he just said top lane doesn't matter. So you can't play through
you can't do it consistently. I don't think. Yeah. Listen, I don't think you could put any other top laner in this league in Supernova and win more games than Quacker made one.
Yes. Then they wouldn't make they wouldn't make a team for me. I think that team success matters some amount.
That's fair.
We'll revisit this when it's TL Quacker or Fly C Quacker, and he's the best in the league. So
then I don't think he earns it.
All right, let's
show it there. It just reminds me to Serdi on TL First last split, where he was looking good, but it was TL First, and his team was bad for a reason. Like, it doesn't matter how electric you are. It always brings the argument to my mind: does he shine because he's the shiny part of the trash can?
Yeah,
like,
I will
that's
see
really
that.
The reason why.
But like that's the thing, like a 30%-ish win rate is not that bad. Like, it's not like they were TL first.
It's not bad, but it reminds me of going higher into the LCS. River had that as well at the beginning when he came to the LCS, where people were saying that he was really good, but he was in a bad team. And then when he went out to a better team and showed that he was really good, it was clear that it was his skill. And I think that's what Quacker needs, because I do think that he's good, but also like his shining moments just make me think Supernova has nothing else to shine really. So if
Exactly.
it's only Quacker, I want to see him shining in somewhere else that he can really prove that it's him mostly.
Okay.
I guess it's just me and Gordo taking stock early with this. That's what we're doing.
That's fair. That's fair.
We'll
We
catch
we
you in
each
later.
have different rookie top laners. We can crown ourselves a little bit. I guess like Zamuda played in like proving grounds and stuff, but not at the academy level.
Right. So
Let's
we'll
move
go
on to jungle third
now.
team. Yeah. Who's your jungle third team again, Slayer? It's been
Sorry,
like an hour
Perry.
now. So
Perry. Yeah, sorry, Perry. Shout out his solo queue streams. He's fun to talk to. But yes, he's my third for
Okay.
jungle.
We'll go left to right first, and then we can chat about more of them. Perry's not on my list. I have UG third.
I have Perry.
Fair.
I'm
I also
I'm
have
actually more surprised with Gordo having Yuji third. I'm honestly more
You think
more
UG's
surprised with that one.
too low, or you don't have him at all?
Too low. I think I think or well I
Uh-oh.
think he's lower than I would have put him, because I
Yeah.
put third. I was thinking Perry, but
Hmm.
then I like went back a bit and I put Tomio third.
Wow. So that means
Oh,
then
okay.
I have my top two contain a player that most of you guys don't have at all, which is interesting to me. So I guess we'll find out how that goes.
I kind of think
Yeah,
I know
I-
which player you have third, by the way.
Well, I have
Or
UG
third, no, higher. Yeah, the second I mean.
That's because I
I
said
don't
it.
have UG on mine.
Okay.
UG is
So-
not there
Wow.
for me.
You don't have UG at all. I can see that.
I do not
like,
have UG.
So here, I have massive respect for Perry. He's on my dynasty team, so know that I have some degree of faith in
course.
Perry. I think he will be on LCS eventually.
Okay.
I just think he had kind of a quiet split. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Like, I think Fear was real up and down. And I think when they were up, it was just so much more through Shochi. And I think like the Shochi Perry mid jungle duo wasn't even like as big as like Shochi as like an individual, like unlocking himself, building his own leads, and then spreading them with Perry rather than Perry being the instigator of those leads. So I don't know. I think it was a really talented jungle split. I just think I think Perry's a close fourth for me, but my top three are like firmly in there.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about
I
Perry
quit
more.
quickly. Yeah, for me, it's a lot of recency bias. I'm gonna be honest.
Fair.
Because I think the way that Perry closed out the split was very good. I think what I like the most about what I saw from Perry in these last couple weeks, because despite the fact that Fear went 6-0, they actually played at least half their games they were losing at mid game. I want to say they were losing both the AoE games to kick off the week, which was really rocky. And it was partly because they put Shochi on Kaisa, which obviously when he hit those item spikes that we all know about the hybrid Kaisa build, it was game over. But how did Fear survive a lot of those games? I think Perry was that stabilizing factor. I think it was 3 weeks ago. I came on here and I was talking about, because we were praising Shochi, I think at some point I think we gave him prospect of the week, and we were like,
Yep.
here's the problem with Fear though, if he doesn't show up, they're completely shut out and they're not gonna win anything. I've now retracted that take, and it is because of Perry, and for that logic in my mind, I believe he earns this third team spot.
Yeah, I'll pile on the Perry love because I have him as my third. I think that you talked about Fear being up and down, and I think the fact that when they were up, I think with the jungler, that's where like a lot of the shot calling comes through. Now, obviously, I can't hear their comms. I don't know if Perry's literally the one calling every shot, but a lot of that falls on the jungle to create leads for the the lanes and to stabilize, not get invaded, neutral objectives. There's just so much on a jungler's plate, and it feels like without Perry, this team loses a lot of that stability and kind of gives into those worse weeks that they had, and so that's why I gave it to Perry. But it was tough. I will
Yeah.
give you that. It was not easy. Jungle, I think, was one of the harder roles, and we will get into this to pick this split.
So my argument here for Perry, or not for voting for Perry here, because I originally had him in mind, but then looking back, I think his start of the split really wasn't that convincing. And I think that's what takes me away from putting him higher, because I feel like, first of all, I value more what Shochi provides for Fear than what Perry provides. And after that, I think that the start from Perry was a bit more lackluster compared to what I was expecting, because I coming off of the previous split, one of the big factors, and I kind of remember this, I had Perry as one of my big three junglers from the previous split.
Yep.
And then coming to this one, the way that he impacted, and also like adding on to that, I didn't have Shochi that high either in terms of the mid laners from the previous split coming into this one. And then seeing the divide between how much impact Shochi has had compared to Perry kind of put me off a bit of where I saw Perry here, and instead made me kind of want to put someone higher, because I do think that Tomio, even though he's had failings here and there, I do think that at the very least he's one of the better players that you can see in the league, and he kind of is part of the failing of DSG as well, or not the failures of DSG in some degree, but it's not his individual prowess as a player, because I still think that he's one of the better individual players. It's just that there's other things involved, but that's why I feel like I like Tomio a bit more than Perry so far, because at the very least, Tomio is where I could expect to see him.
That's fair. I think Tomio was in consideration for me. I think he's just so much more of an enabler to me than like a carry player. And that doesn't mean you can't be up here as an enabler. Like my number one I have on here because I think he's the best enabler in the league. But Tomio, I think, comes close to that. But I don't know. I just wanted to favor junglers that created their own leads when doing all pro specifically is what leaves Tomio off for me.
Yeah, it's a fair one.
And because I know, Gordo, you had UG. So
Chat about UG. Yeah, if you guys have him higher, you can say where you have him, I suppose.
I don't have him on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's partially, I'll explain it more in later picks, but it's partially, I'll say now, it's because I think there's players on Fly C that impressed a lot more individually this year for me.
Okay, fair enough. I have a couple of Fly C appearances on here. I'm not going to lie about that. And they're second seed. They deserve it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, to give my notes on Yuji, just because I guess we didn't talk about him very much, I think he's got the best carry potential of any jungler in the league, kind of splitting off from my point on Tomio. I think he's great on the Assassins. He's great on the Viego. He's like a 1v9 carry type jungler. And that's just like a big highlight to me, especially on a team that's already so filled with talent. The fact that he, on these picks like the Kindred, the Kha'Zix earlier in the season, the Viego, he's just such a massive threat. And continues to be so. I think he's just such a great mechanical player. Yeah, it earns him the spot for me. And TDS, it sounds like you have him higher, right?
Yeah, I have him second.
Okay.
Whoa, spoiler.
Well, we're already talking about Yuji. You can say where he is.
I won't go much into detail just yet. But like, I just value him a bit higher, especially for what he provides for Fly in general.
Okay. Bonfire, no Yuji on your list?
UG is also on my list, maybe, possibly.
Okay,
we'll see.
Right.
I think we have to go to the mid lane first in the third
Don't
team.
tell me. All right, let's get to
fair.
mid lane third team.
Let's go right to left.
Okay, TDS, your third team mid.
What was yours?
Third team
Slayer?
mid. Oh, we're doing mid. Oh, mine. Okay, because I did.
Yeah,
I do realize I spoiled one at the beginning. I had Young.
Young. Okay, so I have Young in my list, but it's not the third.
Wow.
Mine is Dark Wings.
That's a
I
spicy
really
one.
want to do that, TDS. I really, I love it. I love it.
And my reasoning here is for something that we've been talking about quite a bit in the previous episodes of the South Mind. You can check them out; they are on the bots. It's talking about the. Huh? Hey,
Just
you
get
have
a quick
to always
plug-in.
pull it in. But the thing with the Dark Wings for me is that and it's something we talked about previously, the fact that he can carry so well and he is forced into being banned out so much from his team, from the enemy team. And I think that particularly for what AoE likes to play with, they need desperately someone like Dark Wings that will always be a carry threat. Like if they had a different mid laner that could be of equal skill to Dark Wings but didn't play the carry threat performance, maybe comparing it to someone, maybe like comparing Dark Wings to Spyrax, I would argue, because I feel like Spyrax is a bit more on the supportive side and Dark Wings is more on the carry side. I think AoE doesn't qualify with Spyrax, if I'm honest. I think that they desperately needed someone with the carry potential that Dark Wings has, and then the enabling that the team was able to provide was really good. Maybe I'm being too harsh because I do think I do value Will quite a lot in AOE as well. But the argument is that I think Dark Wings is the number one reason why AOE is where it is right now. And one of the big improvements is that after they were able or enable him even more so than compared to the previous weeks, they were beginning to ramp up on the victories. And that's the main thing to me, is that they played well around Dark Wings and allowed for him to carry.
I'm excited to challenge you on that later, TDS. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Whoa.
This episode's gonna be 3 hours, by the way.
It's gonna be like 2 hours. If I resign myself to it, it's fine. I'll edit it all tomorrow. This will drop Friday morning.
I was gonna say at a certain point we might just have to start flying through these players, but we'll see. I have Saligo.
Wow. We're gonna name like every mid laner in the league on this list.
Well, I think this split was a bit. I think the role a bit was top heavy, and by top heavy I mean like top 2 heavy. And so I think number 3 could really be any number of players. It's just about what you value, and I just like what I saw out of Saligo, and I think for wildcard it was a team that I wasn't really expecting a lot out of. If you go back to my preseason rankings, I had them as number 7. So obviously I wasn't really sure what to expect out of them. And Saligo was the one name that I did recognize, and he still kind of like impressed me, even though I knew who he was. And I'm kind of always the more casual guest brought on the show. And when I was watching, I was just like, man, Saligo's doing pretty well. So I got to give it to Saligo. Would not be disappointed if you guys were mad at me for that. But in my eyes, I thought Saligo had a very good split.
I'll quickly say it is very on brand that Bonfire picks the Lissandra spammer.
Yeah, I do love Lissandra. I do love my Ice Queen. This is true.
Dude does love his
But
Lissandra.
Ryoma.
All right, my third is Spyrax.
What?
It is.
Yep.
I'm the
Gordo
biggest
puts
Spyrax
Spyrax.
hater in the world, so that's why you know it means something when I put Spyrax in third. God damn it, because I think especially his second round robin has just been nutty. I think he's actually like really shown up in this second round robin. I called out when he got called up to LCS so that I was like, hey, this Spyrax guy, he's been very good the last couple of weeks. But hasn't been that throughout his whole career, and that's why I was kind of down on him coming in. Didn't show up great in LCS, but even when coming back down from LCS, I think he's looked just as good, if not better. 6-0 in this last week. I think a lot of that is Spyrax performing very well. I think he's really actually kind of started to come into himself these last 3 weeks. It's just 3 weeks, so I mean, I'm not going to say he's a totally different player or anything, but I think he's transitioned from, at his worst this split, he's been a reliable rock in the mid lane that very rarely gives much up. And at his best, he's been carrying like the other players in the league. So, I mean, if this was a list of who do I think the top 3 mid laners are, like period, as like players, I don't think I would have Spyrax on this list. But for top 3 performers in summer 2023, I put Spyrax in third.
That's fair. TDS nearly convinced me to change my rankings just because
Dark Wings is 4 for me. I'm real tempted to do the Dark Wings too. I get it.
And anybody that's listening knows I wouldn't shut up about Dark Wings like the last 2 weeks, and he also might have the highest target ban rate in the league potentially. He's definitely up there because he was getting 2 bans minimum a game for like a 2-week stretch. And I really like the ability for him to pull out, of course, because I love Ezreal, so he pulled out Ezreal mid. But I give it to Young because I think Young did a really good job, not only capitalizing on the meta shift that we had in the middle of the season, where we went towards when Jace mid and Tristana. That I think it was week 4. That 1 week where Jace mid was spam. Maybe it was week 3. It was the middle of the season-ish, but when people started spamming Jace mid, Young was just gapping whoever you put in front of him. And he had some really good Tristana games as well. I think that's why he got bumped up a decent amount for me. I'm also going to pull the standings quote. I mean, they do end up finishing top 3, but even when I had issues with Disguised, particularly last week, it was a lot of the shortcomings of some of their other players, like guys like to be specific, I thought Tomio had a couple int games on the Ivern. I thought the Young has always been kind of a stabilizing force, and particularly stabilizing. He roamed really well on champions that you maybe didn't expect to roam as much and be able to shove out waves. Like, for example, Jace. Like those Jace games he played, he obviously you can get the shove very easily, but you don't always expect a Jace to roam, especially considering he's a top laner drop mid. But he was creating a lot on a champion that I didn't expect him to create a lot on, and that really stuck with me the whole season, even when Disguise kind of dipped down a bit. So for that and the fact that they are a top 3 team, Young slid in to that third place. This is where I decided not to go towards the hot take and play the cooler side, and I gave him the edge over Darkwings, despite how much I adore Darkwings.
Yeah. I used to elaborate on my branching off my Tomio point too, right? I think it's important to keep in mind that while Disguised has all these all-star players on it, I do think they underperformed expectations coming into this split, and I think that just ends up reflecting in my rankings a little bit, for better or for worse. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Young and Meech have not brought the consistency that Diplex and Lost were able to bring, and that difference really, I don't know, I really feel it, and I don't know, I just generally have Disguised players I think a little lower, just given what they could have been based on their pedigree coming in from last split.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Especially because I think that more so than any other team, what's shining through for them to me, and a reason why I still feel like it's salvageable, even though, we're talking about a third team, by the way, like a third place team. It's not like they're dead last, but certainly it's a team that I feel like it's salvaged so much by the raw skill of the team, more so than the actual quality of the actual team play is overshadowed by the fact that they are so good players. The players themselves salvage so much of the team, which is kind of weird to say about a third place team, but it's just that they are so good as players that they can cover up for a lot of their mistakes.
For sure. All right, let's go to third team bot. Let's start on the right again with Mr.
I was gonna say I think we should do these together, but actually I disagree with myself, so I think we should go one by one.
All right.
Even with yourself on fire.
I know. I argue with everyone.
Trust no one, not even yourself.
Yeah, I know.
Fight your
So I
demons
start with
live
the
on
third
the
one?
pod.
With a third AD carry?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear third AD carry.
Okay. To me, I'm not sure if this is a controversial one, but standing wise would be surprising. It's King.
My guy! I have King as well.
Yeah.
Spicy.
Let's go.
Mine's Arrow.
Mine is also Arrow, but King is still on my list.
Ooh. Look at you guys.
So yeah, I also have Arrow down here.
Let's do
I
the.
mean, it's.
let's do
I was
the
gonna say
Arrow
it's.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna defend King, but we can do Arrow. That's fine.
All right, just because I think Arrow can be summarized in a sentence. Arrow's just a freaking rock, man. He's just a rock in the bottom lane. Dude never dies. They don't really play towards him very much. This was a mid-jungle team, it feels like, and then they also have to go and visit Bradley because he's playing carry champions every game. Arrow and Kim Down get left on their own all day, every day, and they never freaking die. They are just holding it down, and you know what? That's my dream bot lane. I want my playmakers on the top side. I want my bot lane to sit there and do their job later. And damn, Arrow and Kim Down, they sure do that.
Yeah, I was gonna. Oh, you go Slayer.
I was just gonna add a quick caveat because I think that's the simplistic way. The only thing I'd add on to that, the second sentence is the most reliable Aphelios player in the NACL.
Such a great Aphelios player.
He's such a great Aphelios.
So good.
The reason why I'll just say why I held Arrow lower is when TLC struggled, and it was in the hiccup week when APA went up, and they went 2 and 4. I feel like if enemy teams play towards get TLC disrupted outside of bot lane, I think Arrow and Kim Down couldn't really pick up the slack to get the team to the point where Arrow usually popped off on that Aphelios because he just had to farm all game for 25 minutes. So when there were games that Arrow needed to take the step up, I don't think he did, and that's why he's at 3 for me, but firmly 3 for the reasons Gordo stated. Okay.
Yeah,
I have to defend King, although TDS is going to also defend him. But my reasoning is pretty sound, which is like, I know I just said that a losing record means I don't put you on. King is my exception. You know I love my EG
little
challengers.
Freudian slip
Uh,
there. I heard obsession
and
in there.
I some of
Bonfire.
that too. I've been a King stan forever, man. I truly believe this guy can be a top 80 carry in the LCS. It's just there's so many personal. It's like your favorite basketball or football player or soccer player, whatever you want to say, who gets injured so many times. I mean, obviously King's not getting injured, but he's always in these situations where it's like, damn it, King, when are you gonna take that next step? And I think this is the
He's
split
John
where
Morant.
this was his. Well, no, because he doesn't, wave guns in the air, but
Yeah, but it's similar logic.
You don't know
yeah.
what King does in his free time.
Yeah,
true.
yeah. You
King
don't know
be
what
like
he's.
that.
Oh, sorry,
You don't know what
wrong
he's doing
Osh
on his
player.
Instagram lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that this was
Oh,
this is
sorry,
the
that was.
split. Jeez, this is the split where I was like, this is the step that King needed to take, and damn, King is so good, and so I know I am going against myself, but in King we trust. Also, I have Arrow as well, but you'll have to see where I put him.
I saw
It's
that
okay,
coming.
Bonfire. Like technically, Supernova was relegated. Meanwhile, AG didn't. They are
Yeah,
in
exactly.
playoffs
Thank you.
technically, so it's not like they are the worst of the worst. That being said, I will say my reasoning for putting King here goes both in the way that it's because he's really good, and to a certain degree going against a bit of what I said, but not really going against that. It's that he was in one of the worst teams I think I've seen in so long that I actually was against watching EGC for a while because I legitimately couldn't put myself through that suffering. It was bad.
Yeah.
And now TFT kind of replaced that, a shot at TFT apart from just attacking them before. But like EGC was a trash can fire. Like legitimately you could throw anything in and it would keep growing. The fire would keep growing higher and higher. They were really bad. But King was one of the biggest salvageable parts about that roster that really I'm surprised the amount of times that I thought King was going to carry to then be disappointed by his team to then be able to carry in some other situations. It's actually amazing. King is really consistent as an AD carry, really good. I would argue he does provide you something similar to Arrow without having the better teammates around him, which I think to a certain degree it changed when they got a more consistent top laner and it allowed King to shine a bit more, but it was kind of the situation for that. And the reason also to add on top of that why I don't have Arrow here, it's a bit of a question also involved because I don't really consider Arrow. Well, in my eyes, I wouldn't put Arrow in any position really. Like I just can't put myself, or I just can bring myself to put a world's I think world's quarterfinalist
Yeah, I think
was
so.
it the highest he's
Yeah.
gotten? A world's
Yeah.
quarterfinalist
LCS
in the
MVP.
no yeah, LCS MVP into an NACL like all-star roster, not because he's bad but because I want to highlight other players,
I
so
get it.
that's why
Fair.
I was kind of arguing against it. If I put him, I would have put him second because I think that he is really consistent and he's really good. Like there's no arguing that, but I just couldn't put myself into putting Arrow because of that. Like I don't think it's fair to the other players that are just getting their opportunities right now. And that's mainly the reason.
That's fair.
I
I'd
have no
want to shout out
counter-argument.
King also. Well, before we move on from King, I'd want to give him the shout out that I think he's shown like new layers to his champion pool these last couple of weeks as well since Surdy's come in. He's been busting out the Seraphine, he's been busting out the Ziggs, and yeah, shout out to him on that. He's a great player, not on my list, but a close contender.
I'm not going to counter argue King at all because he's not done in these
Eh,
conversations.
eh,
All
eh,
right, all
eh.
right. All
Let's
right, let's
hope
go to
so.
support. Let's go to support third team. Slayer, you can start again. We'll go.
Yeah, I had the TLC bottom lane, so I had Kim down. Pretty self-explanatory compared to the arguments I made for Arrow. It's kind of similar for Kim down, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man, that's me too. I have Kim down third as well. Yeah, I mean, he goes in, he gets the vision down. His vision score is great. His death rates are low. And he does this all while not getting any resources, and he does this all wow, this is his first year in the league. Yeah, I think he's getting underrated. The TL guys, like every time you talk to them on interviews, they are all like in this category of like Kim Down is mega underrated. This guy's so good, and they've convinced me a little bit. I do think he's mega underrated, and I think he's really good.
Ah, I have Winsome.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair.
Okay.
so I have Kim down later. So yeah, I don't know. I think Winsome had a good split. It's not really much explaining needed to be done. If you're on the top three teams, I think everyone's like, yeah, you're pretty darn good at League of Legends. And Winsome has been flirting with LCS roster action for quite a while. It's actually surprising he's as low as 3. It almost feels like, and I don't know if you guys are gonna. I'm actually curious to pose this question: is there like a mental block for Winsome? Because I could swear Winsome's better than this. And to say that while he's still an all-pro teamer is still kind of crazy, but I swear Winsome has a higher ceiling. It just feels like he just cannot reach it for some reason, and I cannot figure out why.
So
Well, I would
Winsome is
argue
higher
he's
on my list. So
Oh,
yeah.
maybe not, maybe not. Maybe I just did dislike him.
Nah, he's not on mine at all. So
Oh, never
I
mind.
I
That's
vibe with
fair.
what you're saying.
On mine is higher Winston, by the way, but like just touching a bit of it, he did have a really good like start in the spring LCS where he was playing with Prince. I think his start with Prince in the LCS was quite nice actually. Like he performed well. He was doing really well with Prince, winning quite a bit of lanes by between the two of them. So I'm not sure what is it that keeps him away from the higher stage, but it's kind of an interesting situation. And like Bonfire is pointing out, like I do agree, maybe it is something mental that does stop him in certain situations from just staying up there or playing higher. That being said, like he's higher in my list, so it's kind of funny to argue against
yeah.
it, but it is NACL and not LCS for a reason. So hopefully, like he can go higher and prove himself higher once again. Mine in the third is going to be Cecil.
Mm.
And one of my main reasons for having him third is because I think that this was one of his most average would be the best word possible. Like it's to not describe really that he was bad, but like compared to the previous splits of Cecil, and he's been a top dog of both LCS and NECL and Academy for a while, and he's really consistent as a player, really good. But this one was the one that I felt like he's just cruising by, kind of. And that's why I just feel like he's third at most in my eyes, at the very least. Like he's just passing by. He's still good, but I'm not sure. Like it doesn't convince me compared to the previous ones. Maybe it's because he's playing with Mitch, and it felt like there was a divide, a bit of a divide between the two of them as well, compared to him and Lost in the previous split, and that kind of also maybe affecting how I look at Cecil. But at this point, I just don't think that he's better than the two ones that I have ahead of him. Not necessarily mechanically, but more so in the way that it feels like he's performing with the rest of the team.
You know, I have Zazel a bit higher than that, and
I do
it'll
too.
all
Me too.
become clear with time as we get deeper into
Yeah.
these lists. Let's go. Anybody else have anything they wanted to say on supports? Otherwise, I would say let's just go bottom up now for second team and do second team support
Let's
first.
go.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I think we should start with TDS.
Yeah, I agree.
For the second? Okay. Yeah, because my second team with starting for support is Kimtown. I think, and
Wow.
it's a good transition from that one actually perfectly from you guys. So the thing here with King Down, and it's this, it's following on the argument from Arrow, because like I was saying, I would have put Arrow as a second team if I included him in my list, which he perfectly could have been, but I didn't want to put a world's player caliber player in the list. It's that he's shown so much improvement from each step that he's been taking in academy. Like it's to a lesser degree comparable to APA in that sense. I think APA did a much better job, and he's reaping the rewards out there in the LCS. But Kim has been doing a pretty similar trajectory when you think about it. They both come from collegiate, if I'm not wrong, rising up slowly but surely through there. I think Kim Down had a bit more time adapting and trying to find his place, but he's been improving slowly and surely. The playoffs from the previous split, he really showcased great playing with certain different picks that I was surprised with. And then this split with Arrow, he's been consistently good, has roamed around a lot with Mir, has been finding a lot of value plays over on the top side, following on Arrow when Arrow wants to be by himself but try and play the game as better as possible, as best as possible. and then his engages have been really consistently good. I think overall as a player, his improvement is amazing, and I think he's one of those that you give him a bit more time, he's perfectly fine to go higher.
Yeah, I have Kim down as well, and I don't really know how I'm supposed to follow that. So, refer to TDS. You know, I don't know. I mean, you
All
guys
right.
have all talked about
want,
Kim down.
I have a spicy take, so I want Slayer to go first. Go ahead, Slayer. And
Okay.
then I'm gonna play a game with you all.
So
Hey,
Let's go.
Jigsaw.
I know for a fact that Gordo and TDS know this is an honest ranking for me because I love him, but I have Zazel as the second team. I love him like a first team support, but TDS is unfortunately right, as he very much so is on this podcast. So usually it's not pissing me off, but Zazel, I think took a step back this split, like TDS said. So I kept him out of the top spot. I also think when the meta was dominated by Yumi Melio, that is kind of his weakest role. He's not really an enchanter player. And he was struggling to kind of create. Luckily, there were other players on Disguise that are picking up the slack by that point. The toast, yeah, that's funny, right? I didn't even try to do that. And by the time that the tanks rolled around, he had his big rel games and really stood out on the rel, but it was a dysfunction, like TDS kind of said. I think that him and Meech didn't have the best synergy at points in the season, and I think that when you're grading while this is individual awards, support and AD carry should be graded on how they play with their partner as the only lane that has a partner. So for that reason, as much as I wish I could stick Zazel, you know what? He's the best support in the league. I still think he is, but performance-wise, he did not really show it in the regular season. So he is my 2.
All right. So here's the thing, right? Especially in the case where we're talking all about laning here and how good these guys are working with their partners. Who here knows who the best laning bot lane in the NACL is? Who has the highest gold difference at 15 for both AD carry and support? Don't go look it up, Slayer.
I'm not looking it up. I'm looking at all the rosters. It would take me so long to find that.
Arrow
I
and
was
Kim
thinking
down.
about that first.
Yeah. There's
Is it
Bonfire's
Arrow
got
and
his
Kim down?
guess. All right.
No, it's definitely not. It's
I'm
definitely not. They get
gonna,
weak
I'm gonna spoil it because you guys are gonna get it wrong.
No,
Wait,
no,
okay,
I
hang on.
want
I'm
to
gonna let
guess.
TDS
No,
guess. I'll let
give it a
TDS
chance.
guess.
I'm thinking about it. Just feels like it has to be something that I would hate so much.
It's gonna be
to say.
Marival. It's gonna be Marival.
That's my guess.
I
That's
was
my guess. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
I'm gonna say it. All
I'm
right,
guessing
so
it's
it's-
I think it's
Scary
Lens
Gary.
and Dombre.
No,
actually.
so it's not Meech and Zazel. It's not Arrow and Kim down. It's not Masu and Winsome. It is Lynx and Breezy.
Oh,
They are
There's
winning
no
every
way.
freaking bot lane, dude. Breezy is like up 700 gold on average at 15. Breezy's up as well. And you think back to the games, and they are always winning their bot lanes, dude. They're always taking trades that are favorable to them. They're always taking plates. They're always pushing opposing laners out. And I've been super impressed by Breezy this whole season. I have Breezy as my number 2. And
Okay.
this kind of ties into where I'm going to get to. This has to do with Zazel, and this has to do with Meech. Where, like, I've been down on Breezy historically. I really have been. And I blamed a lot of the Meech Breezy lane faults on Breezy. But after this season, I really do feel like Meech is just kind of a more passive laner. Like, Meech is just not your lane dominant double-lift style marksman. But I think Breezy is. And if Breezy gets the kind of pairing like he has found now in Lynx, who will at least like play with him and go in with him, he can be some of the better bot lane matchups in NACL. So, I mean, I got Breezy up here, man. I'm so impressed by how they've been able to do this split.
Is that one of your hot takes? I feel like that's one of your.
Yeah,
hot
that's
takes.
certainly
Yeah.
one of my hot takes. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
See, my issue with that lies in they throw those leads a lot too. They throw those leads. Like
Yeah.
Breezy,
That's true.
I'm pretty sure Breezy. I mean, Breezy has to be. Where is he with like deaths per game? Like, what's his deaths per game sort of stat? Because I've watched some AOE games where he has some questionable engages in fights.
I'm sure it's up there. I'm sure they lose enough games.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
only
off the
memorized
top of my
one
head, but
stat.
I'm sure it's in there.
You only memorize the one stat Slayer, all right? You can't ask him to.
But I mean, it's a fair argument, right? I mean, they are in fact 16 and 20. So
Also,
you win
now
bot
record
lane.
matters.
Well, For this counter argument, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Breezy. Because when I was talking about Quacker Bonfire, every phase of the game he was the best part about AOE.
That's true.
Breezy maybe for me,
Supernova.
I guess, or Supernova. Yeah, sorry. Breezy sounds. This is something I didn't notice too much. So kudos to Gordo for that. But outside of that early game, Breezy has to be somewhat not as good. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, it's not like AOE is, especially because it's not like AOE has like a bunch of inting lanes on the rest of the category. Like when we talk about AOE, we always start with Will and Darkwings because they've been playing well. So that's kind of where my
Fair.
issues with
Well,
this
and don't
pick
get me
is.
wrong, like Concept's the worst top in the league. So
Yeah, also
Yeah,
Concept is
concept.
terrible.
I was going to
man,
say
I think it's
you were
Soul.
saying that's layer, but
Sure.
concept is their top layer.
Soul's debatably
Yeah.
in the league.
Soul is he's a you ever watch a sitcom and it's like, oh my god, it's this celebrity. That's what Soul is to the league.
Oh man.
I respect the pick and the logic behind it though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I think he's pretty middling. I looked it up, by the way.
We need this spicy one.
He's pretty middling in like the death stats
Okay.
and stuff. It's not like he dies more than the average bear. He dies like a fair amount, and yeah, I don't know. But he wins these lanes, man, and I got to give him props for that. Especially, I want to give AOE some credit somewhere, and we've already established that I don't have Darkwings on my list, so it's going to Breezy.
Sure.
Should we do AD carry?
Let's do 80 carry.
All right, if I suggested it, I feel like I should go first.
Sure.
That's my argument. We're gonna break the chain of going right to left and left to right. And it's also for a very not interesting pick. I've got Arrow. I went Arrow Kim down for my second team.
Fair.
So I mean, it's the same as my Kim down, where I just didn't talk about it because again we've just broken down Arrow so much. What else is there to say about Arrow? Arrow would have been on all of our lists if TDS wasn't so angry at Worlds and the NACL. He's just a great player. There's just not really much I have to say about Arrow and Kim Down. Just like their gameplay, there's just nothing you have to say about it, and then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, they're a second team, So yeah.
All right.
I think that's fair. I feel like I should go now.
Go ahead.
Just because I would originally have Arrow, but the one that I put here is I feel like it would be spicy. Well, it is a spicy, and it's a player that I don't think you guys would have expected me to put here, especially after what I kind of mentioned about them. But I've been really impressed with this player, and overall, I think even in their almost descent and about to make me laugh quite a bit without trying to be bad against any of the players, he was still one of the better parts, and it's a Scary Jerry.
Oh my god!
All right, that's
The
nuts,
madman
dude.
went and did it.
I can respect it because he had some bonkers games. He did.
And I would
Good
say
or
like
bad bonkers?
Both.
it's good. Like I think that Scary Jerry, him and Odd Orange, until Odd Orange for some reason decided to turn off whatever he was thinking about the game for a bit of time, were the biggest parts of all of Maryville. Like I know people would kind of look into Niles and Odd Orange. To me, it was more Odd Orange and whatever Scary Jerry could pull out of his hat to try and carry certain fights. Because Niles, for good or for bad, like he is a player that decides to go in and decides to try and be in the center of everything. Once again, for good or for bad, that led to way too many bad plays for Maryville, but also for good ones. And I feel like he's stuck in a lot of or a really specific style of champion that has to be in the center. Like Gnar is one of his biggest ones. The Pantheon was a nice niche pick, but it got way too predictable, way too quickly. And when it was just picked out of desperation, that it happened quite a bit for Maryville as well. People just played around it really effectively. I think Scary Jerry played the consistent picks, the consistent AD carry picks like the Aphelios, the Jinx, the hyper carries, and he was being the hyper carry of the team when needed, especially when you have, and I don't want this to sound mean, Getback in your mid lane. I don't think Getback was one of the best mid laners at all, or no. I think he was below middle of the pack, really. You need to have a good AD carry to be able to win games, and that's what they got with the Scary Jerry. Like I think he was one of the highlights of the team all split long, and one of the reasons why they are saved right now and not fighting for relegation.
My problem is if Kai'Sa wasn't in the meta, I think he's terrible.
His Kaisa
Not
was,
terrible.
His Kaisa
Not-
do be
not
kind of
terrible.
sick though.
His Kai'Sa was crazy.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Scary Jerry's not on my list. I respect the pick.
No.
I respect the willingness to be bold and select some players from the lower tier teams. I'm not willing to go that far. My second team is Meech. I'm a big Meech fan still. I think I've learned this split to love him as he is rather than wish for him to be something that he isn't. And so I've resigned that he's never gonna be this like laning god, but you don't need to be a laning god to play AD carry. I have Arrow on here because he just sits in bot lane and doesn't die. And Meech can do that too. And
Yep.
Meech can really pop off in these team fights. He's really great at the positioning for him. His Aphelios is sick. He's one of the only players that plays Kog'Maw, and he's one of the only players that has like the pedigree to play the Kog'Maw because he can manage to do so and not just get murked every single fight by the current array of engaged champions that are available. Yeah, and I've been really impressed with his performance, especially towards the back half of this split, where Disguised have started to like solidify it up a bit more.
I think I definitely don't. I don't have Meech or Scary Jerry. And then Arrow is my third. My second team AD carry is in fact King. So if we're giving more love to the
Hey.
lower team players, part of the reason why I didn't refute too much of the King points is because those two over there made all my King points for me. Hands down, the one stabilizing fact on EG Challengers, despite the fact that they had some terrible weeks. I will never forget how King started the split off when Zeri was still popular. I know it's kind of crazy, guys, to think that Zeri actually was a champion where we're at now, but was in fact OP in week 1. He had some stupid Zeri games. I mean, he quite literally won them their first couple. I mean, I'm trying to remember who they were taking games off. Yeah, I mean, it was against Maryville, but EG Challengers were losing in a couple lanes, I think, in a couple of those games, and he just quite literally went, "All right, guys, I'm just gonna take over fights. So let me just crack my knuckles, and I'll just make sure everything goes right." And yeah, sure, was it OP Zeri, but still, Zeri's a complex champion to play. One of the more complex AD carries.
That might be the craziest thing said all day.
Zeri's a complex champion. The kiting mechanics behind Zeri and playing her ultimate timing, and I think she's complex, at least, utilizing her dash. And then he, EG tanked pretty hard, but he was still a decent factor. And then he was forced off the Zeri, and he was making a ton of plays on a ton of more AD carries. And he closed out the season with some amazing Xayah gameplay, helping them make sure that they were solidified away from relegation decently early into week 6. So I'm going to use similar logic here for why King is so high that I used for putting Quacker, a relegated member of the North American Challengers League, on the list, and say without King, I think EG Challengers was 10th place this season. So with that individual performance, he's my second team AD carry.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that's all of our second team carries covered. See, it does get easier as we go on. Maybe we won't hit 3 hours after all. Although we do have even more mids to talk about. Let's talk about mid second team. I guess I can take it first. We're giving everybody an opportunity here. My mid second team is Shochi.
Continue the train of copying Gordo. Shochi is mine as well.
Young. I have Young, which I think is unfair to Shochi that I don't have him on my list. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I don't have Shochi. But I think you made good arguments for Young, and as good as Shochi was, my top 3 I could not put him above. So.
And
That's
it's
crazy
on
to
me
me.
to follow up.
Hey, he said Scary Jerry, all right? I don't have the craziest take of the night.
I think if Maryville doesn't get a free 2 wins from AoE e-subbing, then Maryville is 10th place. So
Yeah, 100%. Hey, you're telling me that I put Maryville at 10th, but I had to
That's true.
witness
That's true.
Kako
TDS is a
scream
massive
themselves
I
Maryville
over.
hater.
cannot believe that you are dying on the collegiate esports hill right now. This is wild.
All right, well, let him get his mid laner out. We're
Oh,
past
yeah.
80
Fair.
carries.
It's still like, first of all, TFT. Second, Chochi is my second mid laner as well.
Oh,
Like,
God.
Bonfire.
the thing is, he would have been third if all things were normal. And that's because I also don't have a lot of like the top 3 mid laners were the ones that I had the most difficulty trying to say after APE was gone. Because I think that with APE it was pretty clear the top 3. Without him, the third one was the hardest to try and call out. And I think the reason why we pretty much had Shochi is for what we said before in the previous episodes of the Salt Mine. And once again, I'll bring it up. Like, he's the reason why Fear is so dangerous in a lot of situations. Like, he's the one that will carry you the game, but if he gets shut down, you may as well be doomed in the game as well. So it's kind of a difficult situation. And then I remember something Gordo said in one of those episodes as well with Shochi. The champion pool that he has is so fun to see and so good for Maribel to try for Fear to try and play around with, and it gives them a lot of variety in what Shochi can try and carry with.
Yep. He's got the most unique champions played, I think, of anybody this split. It's got to be. I don't know. I didn't look up that stat, but I'm just. There's no way there's anybody else. He's got like.
Let's all help me remind me, Gordo. Like, what are some of the crazy ones he broke? Because I know there are. Like,
he played Zed, he played Yone,
Zed.
he played Katarina. He had a Rise game in there.
Well, we don't talk about those two.
Yeah.
We leave those ones off the list.
I like the action one. It was a really consistent
Akshan.
He just.
Like, maybe Shochi is my second teamer actually.
Yeah, you get convinced. You could be convinced.
Maybe there was an oversight here.
He did not play a Rise game. I'm thinking of Young.
Yeah.
He played a Varus mid game. He played a Garen game.
All right. I changed my pick. I go back to Shochi. I think there was an oversight. I mean, you're picking 15 players. You're bound to forget one. I think Shochi.
It was the Garen mid. The Garen mid convinced him.
The Garen mid. It actually just exactly.
So, the thing about it that I want to make sure.
Shochi sweep, by the way, for second team.
With you changing your vote, yes.
Oh my God, Shochi sweep.
Here's the thing that at the end of the season, I think we really need to make sure is encapsulated, because Fear were in arguably the most tumultuous spot of many teams after the first round robin. Keep in mind, week 3 was the week where Shochi brought out Katarina. Ugh, we don't talk about it. And they went and the Garen, and they went 2-4. So they limped into the break after the first round robin. Yep. And what happens after that with all these question marks around Fear, and we're sitting there like, God, if Shochi doesn't show up, they're bad. They immediately go 5-1. And they go 5-1 because Shochi is like, guys, I'm willing us here. I am willing us single-handedly back in to the Challengers League to eventually claim this 4th spot, because he was playing the Zed like crazy. He was creating crazy leads across the board. He was breaking out LeBlanc, the Zed, the Yone, the Kaisa. He was just showing out. And it was most importantly beating down some of the best mid lane, some really good mid laners. And
I think did they 2-0 TLC? I think they were one of the teams that did.
Yeah,
no?
I remember they did.
Yes, I think it was
one of those weeks.
Yeah,
it was not week 4.
Oh no! You know what? They split games.
No, they won
went 5-1.
Yeah.
You were thinking of Wild Card who 2-0.
Wild Card was the 2-0, yeah, but they did take a victory out of TLC.
They did.
Sure.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's the champ pool. It's a diverse champ pool. It's making other mid laners look silly, and it's turning into the hyper carry this last week on that Kaisa in big games as well. They got them to the 4th spot, which, if I'm mistaken, none of us. Well, I think most of us had them top 4.
I think everyone but me.
I think everyone had them 4th, but
yeah, I think we all put them 4th.
I had them 7th.
But after the first round robin, we all felt like that pick was dead in the water.
In my defense, I got the top 3 correct. 1, 2, 3, and then I just kind of the rest of my power rankings were.
I kind of think all of us got the top 3 correct. No, because
but not in order.
Not in order, though.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
No.
I think I had the same as Bonfire, by the way. I think TLC. Yeah, I think we had the same. So Bonfire.
I also think I got the bottom 2 right. You had Maribel 10th.
God damn it, Maribel. God damn it, Taco.
All right,
another reason to hate collegiate.
Let's keep it going.
We are officially halfway through the list.
Yeah, let's move this along.
We're making good pace.
He says an hour and 15 minutes in.
It's an hour and 15 minutes in. I say that's good pace. Let's move on to second team junglers. How about you, Slayer? You can go first.
Yeah, so mine is the only wildcard member on my list and the best member of wildcard. I will die on this hill. Keel is my second team jungler.
Yep. Slayer and I continue to have very similar lists. My second is Keel as well.
Play by
I
play.
have
Play by play.
I got Yuji. I like Yuji, and Slayer talked about Yuji before, so I don't need to like fully break him down. But I'll talk more about Yuji. I'm actually curious what TD.
Well, we're on the same once again the divide because I also have Yuji second.
Oh man,
I'm kind of sad that I didn't put Keel, but like at the
well,
same
stay true
time.
here. Don't
No,
cave
but
in.
not second. I mean in my list, not
Okay,
Yeah, I
second.
was gonna
okay.
say,
Like,
surely
I
you don't
think
have
I think
Keel
the
at
top
all
two is
then. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
to me
like
that there's no Keel.
I was thinking of Keel, but at the same time, like I couldn't ignore like Tommy. And then I also kind of got in the argument of should I put Will as well, because that was another one that I was really trying to see if I could fit in. Like Will was looking great in the jungle, but second is Yuji, and it's for something I kind of explained with in the previous, like talking about Tomio as well. It's because I think that he as a jungler has more carry potential, has really good pull to try and carry around the jungle, does a really good setup for the team. I like some of the early games that Flycy did around him were really nice to see, and I feel like his dynamic with Spyrax particularly is one of the better ones in the league because it works out really well because I think Spyrex provides a lot for what Yuji can try and accomplish as a jungler, and it's not necessarily on giving him all the resources or anything like that, but the attention that Spyrex gives to Yuji to just play the game is really good, and it allows for Yuji to shine.
Yeah, I want to go off that really quickly, and just say like I think Yuji had some of the more interesting jungling pathing, which I really appreciate, and so that was also kind of influenced my decision. I'll be honest, I don't have Keel either. That was the hardest decision I had to make was leaving Keel off. But I think Yuji brought this kind of adversity to the team that not a lot of junglers brought. And it wasn't even like about leadership. I think it was just about like unpredictability. Like when you're going against Yuji, you're just not really sure what to expect, which I think really impacted my rating of him.
Yeah, see, I just put Yuji in third, so then it was very easy for me to get Keel in there. So
That's true.
you just
That's
gotta
true.
you just gotta hate on Tomio. You gotta let the hate into your heart.
I didn't have
And then,
Tomio. I had Perry.
It's
oh,
me.
that's fair.
Me.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to let hate into my heart for Perry, but I managed to do that too. So
You know,
yeah, I
you know
mean,
one funny thing, by the way, the fact that I feel like junglers in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, I would say 2 weeks, were like pumped up so heavily on the league. Like I think the jungle after the fourth week of play just got so incredibly like competitive out of
yeah,
nowhere.
jungle and top were really competitive this split. It was really hard to pick players for that for me. Yeah, I mean, Keel is the pathing goat. He always gets an early advantage. His first and second clears are always just terrific. He's always stealing away camps. Sometimes he throws the entire game doing it, but more often than not, he actually just builds a lead for the team. He was getting thrown around as an MVP prospect for a little bit there. I think he's kind of dropped off with the ascent of a certain man that I'm sure we'll be talking about later. But I mean, I really wanted to keep that dream alive too for a while, and it just didn't pan out. I mean, it was really hard to justify him at this point being an MVP, but I can give him second team All Pro jungler for sure, and I'm happy to do so. He's so close to being like LCS ready, man. I think maybe a little more time in NACL if he can keep this up.
LCS ready.
I think my favorite part about Keel and why I'm so high on Keel that I put him second team is the fact that he continuously won games in meta deficient matchups and played such unique champion pools. Like when you think about some of the junglers that dominate the meta the most, you think like there was a point where Vi was getting picked highly all the time. Maokai was a stabilizing factor at points as well. And he would break out, like he played 2 games against a Maokai, I believe it was from the Odd Orange. And what does he pick both games? He picks Lee Sin back to back and has a combined 40 assists across 2 games on Lee Sin into Maokai in the current meta and steps up. He pulls out Belveth in games and beats TLC with Belveth. he breaks out a new game and goes 0-3-15. And these aren't champions anyone else is picking right now. Yeah, I'm sure maybe you'll see a couple Lee Sins. I believe I'm blanking on the jungler that also likes to pick Bel'Veth, but there's one other guy that plays Bel'Veth. Nobody's playing Nunu. And he's not only playing it, he's not only clearing well across all these champions like Gordo talked about, but he's most importantly transitioning wildcard from those early game advantages that, maybe Zamudo's creating. He's bringing Saligo out of his turtle shell that he does every game because that's how he plays mid lane on Lysandre or whatever. And he's like, all right, guys, we're getting through the mid game, and I'm getting us a win in the late game. I'm getting us a win with our snowball now. He's just such a leader, and refusing to play meta and winning, it scares me for when some of his favorite champions. What happens when those champions become the real meta? What happens when they're overpowered? Keel could explode. So he's my second team. Well, okay. Yeah. He's my second team. I'm very high on Keel as well. If I was going off my favorite, like if I was making a favorite all-pro first team list, it would be Keel, but I had to give it up to a certain someone else for the first team. But yeah, I love Keel.
I think you guys have personal bias, play-by-play casters. You guys constantly talk about your favorite players.
Of course. This is a social experiment, man. Of course I'm going to pick some of my favorite players.
It is true. I did put Saligo as my third teamer.
All right.
Luckily for me, like my favorite players are also the best ones, so just works
out.
out.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Of course, Terry, of course.
All right.
Also, just one quick thing. I think Keel is the highest variety in champions in the jungle for junglers. Like he has the highest variety of champions picked.
I'd buy that. Seems
Definitely.
right.
I mean, I'm looking at it. It's yeah. He also just never played. Like, remember when everyone was spamming Ivern? The guy just didn't. He's played 2 Ivern games in the split, and they lost both of them. But I mean, like, hey, it's just showing you.
Maybe he needs to play more Ivern instead of playing Nunu. That way they can win a bit more.
If we're doing win rates, the Nunu is undefeated.
Maybe.
The 0-2.
True.
All right, top one.
All right, top lane. You want to go first, TDS?
Yeah, I kind of want to bring it here. Top lane was one I was thinking between my first, second, and third in terms of what I wanted to really look at. And I honestly was really thinking about putting him in the first one. But once again, I feel like the one I put at first was the best one. It's kind of hard to go against it. And the second one, it's Faisal. I was really arguing between Faisal and the first one. But I feel like Faisal just is missing this to really be put ahead of him in my eyes. But he's been having another great split in my eyes. Played really well, and it's a consistent top laner.
I want to hear what you guys have to say first before I reveal mine. I'm just curious. Skip me.
Okay.
I have Fake God.
I have Fake God as well.
I also have Fake God.
What do you want, man? We don't share a note sheet. You don't know, but it's what it is.
Gordo, the people are going to start talking, and by the people I mean the 4 people that are watching the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're going to start talking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 5 picks.
At least 10 people.
Yeah, it is kind of insane. I also have Fake God. I was between that and Bradley, but I think realistically it has to be Fake God.
I had a very similar dilemma, Bonfire. I was considering Bradley as well. I knew it couldn't be both of them on this list because Quacker had to be in there. I would not leave Quacker off, so somebody was getting cut between Fake God and Bradley. It ended up being Bradley, who I still think had a solid split. Don't get me wrong, he's a close 4th, but Fake God, he's still one of those top laners you can play through, and you can win games. Yep. I mean, his Renekton, his Jax, they demand bans every single game, and rightfully so. He can slam folks, and he can transition those leads across the rest of the map, and that's what I'm looking for in my top laners, baby. So I'm pretty happy with keeping Fake God here at number 2.
I think a discussion needs to be had at some point. Sorry, Slayer, just quickly about is Fake God the best non-LCS player in North America? Because how long has he been dominating NACL, but he cannot make it up to that second level and do well?
Yeah, I'd like to see him get another shot.
Right now he's not though.
But I think at this time I don't think he is.
Yeah, I went on a tangent with Keel, so I'm just gonna quickly say. Everything Gordo saying is why I Fake God up there. I also appreciate his champion pool compared to how the meta's gone. But yeah, Fake God. I was very close to putting him first. And it's going to be funny when I say the first because it might be sort of funny compared to how someone else's list is about to go in here. But
Pony
He's
top.
second.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
it's
Tony-
gonna be the same as
Tony's
mine,
already
I'm
been
sure.
first.
So let's
You know it is, man.
fucking do it. Let's go.
Whoa.
It's time for you can say whatever you want on this show, Bonfire. Huh?
What?
Well.
I've been on this for 2 splits, and I did not know we could swear on this. That's
We've definitely
unbelievable.
Okay,
sworn
first
before.
First
I
of all,
always
I
just
don't
thought you
think we
bleeped.
should, just because I still want to put like some sponsors up there, just in case.
Someday,
So ideally,
someday.
we should try and hold off.
Someday.
What about
we're not
someday?
gonna fully unleash ourselves, but I'm also not gonna police it. You can go first, Bonfire. Who's your number one top?
I got Faisal.
All right, that's a cool one. I like Faisal. I might get flamed for this a little bit. I have Surdy.
Oh my god.
I knew.
No
I
way.
honestly felt. I honestly knew you were going to do this.
I have Surdy, man. I gotta have Surdy. Slayer.
No
All right,
way.
Slayer leaving means he has Surdy
Slayer
too.
has
TDS,
30
you wanna
as
go?
well.
Yeah, I'll go here.
Oh, he doesn't.
Oh,
have
he
30.
doesn't.
I
Okay.
think that's stupid. I have Faisal. Faisal is.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it'd be funny compared to TDS, because TDS probably has Fake God, and he barely.
Yeah,
really
correct.
put
I have
Faisal.
Fake God.
Yeah, so we're swapped.
Yeah, like the different. Like I said, like difference
You
is
can't-
this.
I'll get into
Yeah,
it. I'll have a spiel. Don't get me
Yeah, this is on
I
you,
want to
man.
make my points before we go into that because I knew that Gordo was going to say 30. I was 100% sure, but I just wasn't sure if it was really going to be first or second. And then second pretty much confirmed it after he also threw away Bradley, but I also did, so it doesn't matter. The thing with Fake God that separates him from Faisal to me is, like I said, I think that there's just a couple of things here and there that Fake God still does better than Faisal, and it really makes a difference. And then the thing with DSG that they just simply, to me, won through the sheer power of their top side. Because I think that bot lane was really just their cruising by, and their top side was the thing that made the team won as much as they did and be as consistently winning as they did, even though I think that they are a mess as a team in terms of how they play together. That the 3 players up there are one of the main reasons why they were winning a lot of games. And Fake God is just simply really good right now. I really hope that he gets the opportunity like Diamond, but not the treatment like Diamond, that he just goes down once again.
All right, Surdy.
All right, let's
Against,
go.
This
Okay.
is like, this
man.
is
Let's
like
go, let's
Surdy
do it.
versus the
So
state of the
you
What,
cannot
10
deny
games?
you cannot deny the impact that Surdy's had on this team. And really what really comes down to is I'm trying to come up with other explanations, right, for why evil geniuses have turned this whole split around. And other explanations, the puzzle pieces just don't fit, man. You can't say that they were an otherwise good team that, like, just needed a shake-up, you know? Like, that justification that can often be used in the cases like this, because they've been shaken up. They're fully shook. They had Robbie Bob for a while, and that's honestly the best they looked prior to this iteration. They had that, like, 1-5-1 week that, at the time, nobody realized would be half of Evil Genius's wins for the whole split. And then they had mobility for a while too, and changing him out for King, you know, neither of these changes had that massive impact despite the change. So it comes down to top lane. So either Surdy is that good or Soul is that bad. And I don't think Soul is that bad. Like, TSM thought super highly of him, Evil Geniuses kept him for this long, Taco picked him up, and like, the whole team is firing more completely together. Like, they're all just seem to be executing at a much higher level. Their macro seems way better with Surdy. And I can't just, like, chalk that up to, like, well, Soul was garbage. Like, there's no way Soul is just sitting there, like, screaming incoherent thoughts into the comms, like, ruining it for
Gordo.
everybody. They wouldn't have kept him so long if that was the case. I can't, I'm not enough of a Soul hater to say that Surdy is not, like, the single most influential player in this split. Like, to have just come around and completely turned around this Evil Geniuses team the way that he has.
That is crazy.
Technically, though, didn't Soul get relegated
Yes. Well,
after just
yes.
2 weeks of playing?
Yes, he did. Look, don't get me wrong. Soul's not good. Soul's not doing good. But there's no way he's that bad. Like, there's no
when
way
he was
that
in
he's
EGC,
like
they
the
were en
weight
route
single-handedly
to relegation.
dragging this Evil Geniuses team into the depths. Like, I can't believe, like, he's not making, like, King unable to execute on the team. Like, there's no way that like Sol was the guy stopping King from having these massive team fights on Seraphine where he lands the 4-man flash ultimate and completely wins the fight. Like it's not Sol's fault that like Ryoma has no idea where the jungler is ever and is just dying to every gank. Like this is stuff that's turning around when Surdy joins the team. Like I got to give some like intangibles over to Surdy that I previously did not really peg him as. Like he's always come off as like a bit of an ego head to me, and I think the fact that his whole split on TL first was just everybody playing through him no matter what did not help that.
It was Teal first.
Yeah,
Also.
he was the whole TL first team, but he's here now, and the macro play across the board has increased right alongside his joining the team, on top of him being individually very well performing. So,
but first team,
first
the
team,
best
baby.
top laner.
He played half a split. He played everybody in the league. I
Wow.
give it to him. I give it to him.
So what was his like score?
His
when
record?
he joined? Yeah, his record at the moment that he joined, how many wins and loses?
At the time he joined, his record.
No,
this
but
split is
not
9
in
and 9.
He
He went 9-9.
He went 9-9.
9-9. Okay, so that 50%, not a bad one.
I
Maybe the AGC staff was just bullying everyone, and Surdy just joined and he stopped them from bullying everyone.
I
Maybe
mean,
that's the thing.
if that's what you want to believe, you can believe that.
Stood up.
Yeah. So Surdy stood up to the man. I don't know what he did. I can't say what he did, but whatever he did, it was fantastic, and it saved this team from relegation. So,
All right.
he's my first team all-pro top laner.
I thought the Scary Jerry take was going to be the craziest one.
The Scary Jerry take is the craziest, dude.
No, you're not
No,
escaping the
no.
Surdy slander, my friend.
I just want to say that yes, I did put Scary Jerry, but I did preface it saying that if everything is normal, it's Arrow. It's never him. So at least
you got to commit to the bit here, TDS.
It's
I'm
Surdy,
gonna
man.
hold you
I'm
to it.
I'm giving it all up for Surdy. How is Surdy not even on third team on your guys' list? That's my question.
Because he didn't play. He didn't play full
much.
split.
He played half the games. Sure. I don't know.
played
I
half
mean,
the
we're about to
games.
talk about APA and Harry, and they didn't play full splits.
Well, that's for a
APA
whole different
played every
reason.
2 weeks.
A whole different reason.
Also, maybe I don't have APA first team. Who knows?
Maybe
All
not.
right, shut up. You do.
I
So Faisal, who played a full split of North American Challengers League.
I'm defeated. I'm out.
That's it. It's over.
No, I think Faisal. I quite literally have him edging out Fake God because he actually was 3-1 against Fake God, and partially. It actually doesn't really count that much because he played 2 games of Scion the first time they came around, and he was losing. But I'm just really impressed by how Faisal had a lot of pressure put on him, getting moved up to fly C, especially with the spot for Phillip. I know some people had questions about how that would look, because a lot of people held Phillip decently high, and now we're sitting here where Faisal's at least being argued for top 2 or the first among most of us. And he also just. It's another guy that plays like diverse champions. He started out some Scion games. It's not the most fun gameplay until he gets to team fights, but it certainly got the job done. He's pulling out Gragas and beating guys that got to pick into Jax matchups. He completely smothered Fake God the second time they played him. First game 3, 6-1 and 8. Bodied him in lane. As you expect, his Gragas can cancel a lot of what Jax does, but still, that's still Fake God on Jax. So he's able to beat them. He plays great Cassante, Renekton. He has Tryndamere wins on his list, guys, like Olaf too. This is obviously me showing the trend that I love champion diversity and success with it, but I'm just so inspired by how Faisal's 2-year trajectory looks, and I do truly think that in some time. And I'll say it now, I think he could be a top 3 North American top laner with the trajectory that he is on. So I think he really proved that this split, and I'm willing to give him his flowers because he had a bigger jump from his expectations to now compared to what we expected from Fake God in my mind.
I think it's fair.
I also
the North American expectation is not that weird when you think about the fact that the North American top laners right now are
I
Solo,
know.
Hanser, and Revenge.
I was about to say he's got to
Yeah.
really beat out some tough ones. Oh no, can he beat Haunter
Opposition
as
is
he limps
important.
back into the
Oh wait,
LCS at age
Licorice.
45?
And
I
licorice.
I meant everybody in the LCS. I guess
Oh
I
wow,
said North American because he is NA. But
better than
Yeah,
Impact and that's
I-
I honestly think it's possible because those two have to go. Like
Yeah, Impact and
Yeah.
Someday, I
Impact
think,
and
are
Impact
inching
someday
towards the door.
and Summit, like all the Korean top laners are
it's just
bound
gonna
to
be
be
Fudge
going.
left and
So
Revenge. Sorry.
Fudge is the one that it's going to be the hardest to, I think, go against because I feel like he's going to be one of the most what is longevity? I don't remember the word too.
yeah, longevity. I think Fudge
Yeah.
has Fudge is gonna have a lasting impact in the LCS. We're gonna think of Fudge, I think, in like 5 years down the line, like we think of like Double Lift in my
Dyrus?
eyes.
Oh,
Maybe not
I
Double Lift.
thought.
That's kind of a big shout.
Yeah, I was
but
thinking more in the top lane position, but yeah, like
Yeah,
it's.
like
I
he'll
agree.
be an
Sneaky,
all-timer.
maybe. I
I
think
think
Sneaky is a good comparison.
Fudge is gonna
I'll-
be an all-timer.
I'll put it this way. In 3 years' time, I think Faisal will be making at least second team all LCS.
Okay,
I think
you
that
get it.
is a
You have it
tempered.
here. You can now go back three
Yeah,
times from
exactly.
now to the
Yeah.
bot of the South line where Slayer says that, and we can see if it's true or not.
See,
Yeah.
I gotta
see.
make hot takes like that so I can DM these players when they make it big and be like, "See, I was your biggest fan from day one."
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like, "Get out of my DMs, you
Yeah,
weirdo."
exactly. Who's
It's
this
gonna
guy?
be-
okay.
That's a bold take. It's yeah,
It's
I don't
bold,
know.
it's
Maybe
bold.
maybe I have the wrong read here. I feel like Faisal has not been as impressive this split to me as I was hoping for out of him. Like I think he had a worse summer than he had a spring. And he had a much better team around him in summer here as well. Granted, he doesn't have to do as much here. He's got some fantastic pieces around him. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't see enough out of him to be like crazy blown away. I still think he's one of the better top laners in this league. Again, if it was just like who do you think the best top laners are, rather than I think who are the best top laners this split, then maybe
half of the
Faisal makes
split.
it on the list.
Imagine if Surdy played the whole split.
Honestly, if Surdy played the whole split, it might work against him because
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say.
because then there wouldn't be this binary like
Yeah.
team
Ambiguity.
without him, team with him
Yeah.
comparison for me to base my whole argument around.
All right, let's
Sorry.
go. So we're on jungle now because we're going back top down.
Yeah.
right.
I guess I can take this one first. I have
feel like
Mir
this one-
as
yeah.
first team. I think
Mir.
Mir's running it back, baby.
Is this not Mir sweeping?
This is Mir.
It's a Mir sweep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mir sweep.
Yeah.
I just want to
meat-
bring out I want to defend this because I do realize
Against who?
and before
We all
people
agree.
say, yes, Mir played Worlds technically, but he
That's what I
played
thought.
for Chiefs.
Yeah.
I am not willing to compare him to someone that played and I think he won LCK and went into a really important like run in Worlds. I know I'm not sure on the Arrow thing. I know he got to finals and it was a great finals by the way. Rocks against KT in 2016 was amazing, and then also in 2013 he played in finals. But apart from that, I am not willing to compare Mir / Arthur to Arrow. Their trajectories are completely different, and Mir did come to an A to a certain degree improve. Arrow came in to be a great guy and help people improve, not himself. He didn't need that.
I gotta say, this whole narrative is very silly to me because, again, I'll go back to pro sports. In the minor leagues of baseball, you have players who are all-time greats,
Yeah.
who are older, who don't have it anymore, who help mentor people. So, and they can still make all-star teams. So I gotta
I agree.
disagree with your whole
No, I
rating
agree. Like
system there,
my
TDM.
reason here is because I don't want to take away from like players that are building up to improve even more. So like, if not, Arrow would be here, but it's
Alright.
not that I don't think Arrow is great. It's
Alright.
really not the case like that.
Mirror sweep.
Mir sweep. Yeah, dude's he's the best jungler in the NACL. He's a little bit more enably than Keel or Yuji on my list. He's a little bit more in the Tomio camp, but he's got the best team, so I think he can afford to be like that. And I think if he didn't have the best team, I think he would put on the carry pants a little bit more. I have faith in his ability to play different styles. Yeah, he's just the best all-arounder. He's LCS ready. His import status makes that a little bit more difficult. If he didn't take up an import slot, he would be a no-brainer promotion day one.
Well, is he not just like the force behind Piosik that's forcing Piosik to like not to every game? I feel like Piosik is kind of a
Didn't
goofball.
work in spring, so I guess not.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, but it may work for the other runners because they can just say, well, you know what? He's Korean. So he technically could
Well,
just be the
TLC
input they
also
want.
sucked in spring. The fact that they were #1 now, like Piosik knows that Mir will come for his spot if he does not perform.
Mir should have already come for his spot. Mir
Yeah.
should have gotten his
Realistically,
spot
yes.
Yeah,
spring into summer.
Realistically, yes.
Here's all I'm gonna say on Mir. Hey, Bonfire, it's Steve, right? Am I Liquid Steve? Hey, Liquid Steve, I got your roster next split. Give APA his favorite jungler back because he's that good. First team. That's all I got.
Piosik and APA have some pretty good synergy. But yes,
They have
Yeah,
looked
it's
good.
actually really fun to see them together. Honestly, it's been one of the
don't care.
enjoyable
Piosik's
parts
on a
about
1-year
the split.
contract. I don't think Piosik's still gonna
Yeah.
be here next year.
See ya.
This is true.
Let's get Mir up there. Yep.
Piosik
That's all I have to say.
Nongshim?
He's that good.
Cool.
Yeah, real.
Cool. Everybody loves Mir. Yeah, go look at anybody talking about All
Agreed.
Pro for about most valuable prospect last
Is he
split to
winning
find
this
out
one
why Mir is so
again?
great. We don't need to
Yes,
spend
sir.
too much time on Mir being great. Mid lane. First
So I'll say it
team
on two.
All Pro. I'm sure. Yeah, if we aren't breaking, I don't know. It sounded like TDFs. Did you exclude Harry and APA?
Yeah, I will. Originally would have been APA 100%, but I did exclude them because I don't think
Yeah.
that they should be here.
I give.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
go ahead.
cheated.
I
I have APA/Harry. Like they're both.
also have.
congealed
I have
me.
Yeah.
APA
I
slash
think they're
Harry
the
I think
too.
it's
I
fair.
just gave it to them
APA/Harry.
joint.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why my list ended up like it is because I didn't put APA. Like APA is 100% number one. Don't get me wrong. Like he is undoubtedly, unquestionably the best player, and I will even go further. He was the best player in the league before he went up. No one came close. He was the number one, no question. Now because I don't like, and this is something we did last play as well because MNS did go up as well, and he was the unquestionable best mid. I didn't want to do deviate from that, and that's why I didn't include APA. But if he still was here, he would be unquestionably the number one. I put Young because he goes up one step ahead of the others if APA is not here. And my reasoning is close to the same one that I went with Fake God, because I think that DSG is so dependent and so unable to play without their mid lane, top lane, and jungle doing things. Like bot lane is cruising by. I think jungle and mid lane have the worst or one of the worst synergies in terms of mid jungle synergy in the league, which is amazing. And then there is weird things. But if Young doesn't play the way that he does, and if he's not one of, if not the best mid laner in the league, I don't think they're third. I think Young shouldn't even be playing in the NACL. I feel like he should have gone up as well with APA, but that is going to be next split. It doesn't really matter. But to me, he's the best mid laner, both mechanically and in what he brings for the team.
Yeah. Young is in that category for me of again, if I were to rank best mid laners, period, in the NACL overall, Young would be up there over Spyrax for sure. But for this split, I actually leave Young off my list just because I think, I don't know, he underperformed as did the rest of DSG, and I have other DSG members all over my list with Fake God and Meech and spoiler alert. And so I end up leaving Young off the list for that reason. But I agree, he's got huge potential. I feel like there's not even that much that needs to be said about Harry and APA. I mean, I agree with TDS. APA was the best player in the league. He was shoe-in for most valuable prospect had he not already been promoted up. And Harry has just been dumping on this league since he came down. So it's I give it to the TL first mid lane pool, the TL first mid lane depth chart. Sorry, the TL challengers.
I was gonna say.
No,
I was
gonna say,
sorry,
I was gonna say.
nothing. Sorry,
We don't talk about TL first.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
It's like a nightmare almost.
yeah, no, the TL, the Team Liquid mid lane depth chart gets my first team All Pro.
Yeah, Harry's playing like a man possessed. I mean, I was messaging in our little chat about his Yasuo game. I was like, it was Sunday, just having a little bit of lunch.
Course.
And eating lunch, and I'm just flipping through streams and such, and I'm like, well, hold on, 6-0 at 12 minutes, up 2,000 gold on anybody else. It was unbelievable.
Whoa.
It
I
was
brought that game back to
Bonfire,
mind.
you're telling me that as a member of the Salt Mine, you're not actively engaged in both streams of the NACL broadcast, our lifeline every single day for the entire day?
No, I
Why are
watch
you
VODs.
here?
Yeah,
Kidding,
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm
We were
also
also casting at that time, remember?
Yeah,
I'm a
100%.
VODs boy too.
All my real
Sure.
VODers out there. All right. Now to go to the most highly contested
Oh wait,
position.
before we move, can I
Um,
just bring a quick thing with Harry as well, just
Yeah.
to not leave him out because I just talked about EPA. Like I didn't put Harry either for obvious reasons. I think he's going back to LCS next split anyway. So should I even like? Is it worth mentioning him that much or putting him here? I don't think it's worth. Like he's LCS. He's going back to LCS either on any other team or on TL.
Yeah, I do want to
But
say,
I won't
like,
say
it
TL.
does seem like, I mean, there's been whisperings that Harry seems to be like a bit of a nerves issue, right? We've talked about it before. Like, apparently he's a scrim god.
Yep.
And I think this
I know that.
demotion really shows that, right? Like, he comes down, and it's like, not only is he like unleashed, like he appears to be playing looser and much more, he's looking a lot better, but he appears to like he does not look like he did when he was in academy last year, right? He looks way better than even that. And I think that's the results of like all this, high level scrim experience he got too, where he was able to play against some of the best mids in the world in scrims and hold his own apparently. So
And
I
still
hope he
kill
gets that
caps.
LCS shot on like maybe a less big high pressure environment and can maybe show a little bit more of this on the LCS stage.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about
Yep.
these two. We can move on. You guys covered it.
Cool. Bot lane, this is sure to be a sweep. Surely. This is
Yeah, can we jump?
the
I've
most
got,
It's the most
valuable
valuable prospect.
the
I've got
most
Scary
valuable
Cherry.
prospect. I'm sure he is going to win it. It is Masu.
Yeah, with no
Yes.
AP in the league, it's massive. It is 100%
Yeah,
massive.
I actually have
The-
sketch here.
I have
Oh.
Scary Cherry. Actually.
that would have been great if you actually had it, but yeah, no.
Nah, he's the perfect combination of if Flystein needed him to, he would just sit back and farm on Aphelios in a similar fashion that Arrow did, and then just take over fights. His fight game sense is spectacular. Particularly, he finds the tightest windows to capitalize on things. The hardest thing you can do as an AD carry is successfully choose when to actually come out of your protective shell and try and make a play in a fight, because there's so many. The best AD carry, Viper has moments, Ruler has had moments where he has stepped forward and they have gotten completely blown up because they thought, oh, I can flash this wall and win the game, and they're the best in the world. And that's the hardest thing to make up. And while they're not, well, Masu is not on their level. I'm not saying that,
I was
but
gonna say
in
the
in the vacuum of the NACL, I watched so many games where in fights he made the decision to jump forward, the hardest decision as an AD carry, and they panned out. So he's playmaking. He can sit back and farm up. Like Gordo wants his bot laners to be just all around ready for the LCS.
I know this is probably not the best comparison possible because I know the team is not that good. But like I feel like one of the best ways to try and show Masu would be the play he did on Kaisa against Sako this weekend, where I think it was a 4v1 where he just moved around towards the side, ultis over up,
Unbelievable.
stripes upwards, kills I think the Sejuani just as he's dying. Like that's the perfect example of how good Masu is and how well he can play around with the damage thresholds with the 80 carries. Like he's really good with that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with what both of you guys have said, and I thought TDS was about to steal my point there when he was trying to make a point of comparison, but he was just listening to play. I think if there's like a historic LCS comparison point for Masu, he's like a baby double lift to me.
Yeah, I was about to
He
say that,
reminds
yeah.
me so much of like older school like GOAT double lift, and
I never watched all those.
I'm really, I don't know. That's the point of comparison I'm going to use when it comes time for me to hype people up on Masu next year, when he's starting for probably FlyQuest. Like I think Prince is probably on his way out.
Yeah.
So I think Masu has like a really solid path to LCS here, and trademark. And I'm really excited to see him follow that, because yeah, I think he is the potential to be like this next. He's like this year's like JoJo. I think he's like the young player that's really like come up and he's slamming everybody, and he's gonna be a big player to look at next split.
I will end this segment by quoting Cubby. Get him the hell out of my league. Go to the LCS, Youngblood. Get out of here.
Yeah, he's too
Just
good.
by the way, also looking at talking a bit about the FlyQuest thing, I feel like this is one of the times where you have the easiest, well, the most scripted and easiest path towards LCS, right? Because it's just about as a Korean like import is failing miserably, the team is blowing up, and I'm pretty sure FlyQuest doesn't want to spend the same amount of money they spend in this roster.
Yeah.
Like this roster cannot in any possible way be cheap. That means that now you have to try and go back, kind of what TL did, and they have Masu now to try and replace a great AD carries, which I think it's a good way for them. And the funny thing is, I don't think they need to hyper blow up the roster. Like they can keep Volkan, they keep Spica, they bring up Masu, and they can keep Impact because I think that he at the very least has one more year.
I was gonna say
And
bring
then you just
Faisal,
bring a mid laner, plug and play a mid laner if you don't want to play Spyrax. I would give him the opportunity, but if not, bring up a mid laner,
Harry.
young, and
Yeah.
then you
Harry.
play with that.
You could promote Yuji too. I mean, Yuji, we all had him on our
Definitely.
list somewhere, and he's grandfathered in to not count as an import too. So
I was gonna say Faisal for Impact, but yeah, I mean,
yeah,
FlyQuest actually, with all of their woes, are in a really good position.
so many
I-
pieces to work with here for.
I'm
for
gonna
FlyQuest.
save my point to this for our. Okay, let's just move on. I think we should move on to support.
Yeah, I think so too.
before this
Okay.
conversation
Let's do
continues.
support.
Uh,
Whoever wants to go.
I'll just get
I'll
out of the
go
way
first.
then.
Oh,
You want to go first? No, go.
yeah. Just to quickly like point it out because we're in the FlyQuest train, right? It's Winsome to me.
Yeah,
I think
same.
he and like I was saying, Masu is the best AD carry, but I think that Winsome was one of the best supports. Obviously, to me, the best support. Had so many good moments with engaged supports to try and bring up fights for them. I think his work with Yuji is really, really nice to set up for the plays for FlyQuest. And also, I think that he did what he did at the beginning of spring with Prince, with Masu. And that's just enable your AD carry in the best possible manner to allow for him to be the biggest star of the show. And I think that that's precisely what Winsome was able to accomplish with Masu, doing consistently in the split. I think one of the best bot lanes, if not the best bot lane, obviously. I think contesting with Arrow and Kingdom, but in a different manner. And it just to me goes to show how good Winsome is, and I hope that he's not going to get the diamond like treatment and he's going to be in the limbo as well, or the fake out treatment and stay in the limbo.
Yeah.
You
I
go
also
first,
have.
Larry.
I also have Winsome. I want to make sure. So I want to make this whole point because we started talking about FlyQuest. I think that Winsome is so good. I'm also a biased league avid watcher because I'm biased to the supports that can play engaged supports very, very well. Anyone that's been listening to me talk about Zazel know that's how I feel. Winsome was the best engaged support player this split. But my favorite thing that really elevates him for me is it's kind of that deal where it's like if you play one style, you can you can understand, you have to understand how the opposite style plays against you to capitalize over them, right? So engaged support players have to know really well how to play against Renata, Braum, players, champions like that to capitalize on their engage. Winsome plays an amazing Renata. He played a really good Braum at points this split. So he not only knows how to play engage well, he knows how to play disengage as the best support in either of those categories. In my mind, this split in NACL. I think the Winsome, and he's already showed that. We talked about how he showed that on the LCS stage at a point. I think FlyQuest got too caught up in the Ayla race back when they grabbed him. And I think Vulcan was a plug because, you know, they wanted to bring in some more fandom. I think that Masu and Winsome should be starting for FlyQuest next LCS split. I think that they are that good. I think that Vulcan is kind of on the way out of the league in a lot of ways. I mean, he's at least like this. Right? We all agree I don't think he's jumped up like he did on EG. And I think they should just pull the trigger and bring these two up together because it is very fun to watch both of them play. And I think their bottom lane is first team all pro for that reason.
So I have
Gordo, we both have
Zazel.
Zazel.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
Zazel.
I wish
So
was there.
I don't know. I give so much of the credit to Masu. Like I feel like when I think of all the big Masu moments throughout this split, it's often been like him outplaying individually while Winsome is off doing something else. That's not to say that Winsome's done a bad job, but I just haven't seen a lot individually from him that's like blown me away. I agree the Renata games have been pretty good. I think the champion pool's been solid. But I just give a lot of credit to Zazel. I think Zazel's been fantastic on a lot of those picks as well. I think he's still best in slot in the league. I think, he doesn't look as lane dominant or as flashy as he did alongside Lost, but I think a lot of that is because he's with Meech now. And as I mentioned earlier, I think Meech is just never going to be that guy. I don't think Meech is going to play that style, but I think Zazel enables Meech to be the best version of Meech. By you just make sure he gets through, keep the boy safe for as long as you can, play the enchanters as needed, and become up huge later on. So I'm still really high on Zazel. I think he plays it all. I think he plays it all really well. I think he's a big shot calling force for this team, and I think he deserves a lot of the credit. Whereas I'm leaving some other members of DSG out. Zazel's my guy, who I really keep on in.
Yeah, I got Zazel. I think Zazel is at this point you have to have the discussion about Zazel as one of the best supports North America has ever seen for his time in I say one of because I think he's probably top 10. Maybe he's jumped up to top 5 for me. Just all of the things that he's done. Has he not coached? He's done NACL. He's helped bring people up to the league. And even when he was in the league, he was incredible. So I give to Zazel another incredible split for him. I also really enjoy Zazel, so I will admit my personal biases. I feel like this is my Quacky. This is my Scary Jerry.
Quacker?
Except for Quacker, sorry. Except for the big difference
You
is
can
I
have
actually
pet
think
names
Zazel-
for him.
This is, apparently not, because I didn't even put him in my top 3.
He's stealing my bit. Zazel's mind. Heads off. Nah, you're right.
Should have put him at number 1 then. Should have put him at number 1. I steal him away.
He wasn't as good as Winsome, unfortunately.
He was better in my eyes.
He needs to be. Both of them should be in the LCS in my mind. Zazel had LCS offers. I'm assuming they were from Immortals and Dignitas. So good on you for declining those, big guy.
I actually think Zazel shouldn't be in the LCS. I really like him as kind of he's older at this point. Just coach people up, I don't think he needs to be stealing slots from young talent.
And the thing is, I feel like right now, support-wise, I don't think you want to keep that many in the LCS anyway, in that sense. Because even just considering about the support pool and what was potentially in the between, right? Diamond got replaced by Poom. Let's say that Poom doesn't replace Diamond. Then you have Poom on the horizon that can come back into the league. Would you really want to take away the spot from Poom to give it to Zazel? I feel like his role right now is probably much better for the overall ecosystem. And at the same time, I don't think that there's that many prospects anyway that are from the support position that are supposed to go up. So I feel like you can keep him on the verge and use him as even though it sounds kind of bad, as a test to know if someone is really better or more possible to go up compared to Zazel. And I remember, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, I think it was Kobe that tweeted that there was interest for Zazel, but it seems like Zazel has other priorities, and that's why he likes this sort of more open schedule for himself. I think it was something along those lines. So as long as it fits for him, it's better, no?
I just assume he got offered a spot on Dignitas and he didn't want it.
Yeah. That's a whole different thing.
Don't blame him at all.
I don't blame him at all. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a valid point that you shouldn't be blocking out guys like Poom, or if you want to pull up Winsome, or others,
Ayla's already in the league.
Ayla,
He was in the weird spot.
I'm also selling stock on Ayla. But I think he could be the cornerstone of one of those LCS winning rosters. I mean, do we really think that if you put Zazel in where Sven's playing on Cloud9, there's a change in play? I don't think so. I mean, maybe you play style because Sven plays enchanters, but
So the thing here for me with Zazel, more also with that regard, I don't think that he makes a roster worse. I think that he can perfectly fine be in a championship roster. And just to make the point quick, the thing is, I don't think he also wants to be in the spot where he has to be but do you want me to go, or do I need to stay, or do you want me to hold up in here, or like, are you going to get another guy? Like that sort of situation. I feel like he's more, or he feels better just being in the spot where he can decide his own future.
He's a
Like
bridge
say,
support. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he's more comfortable with that. Like remember the time with no work, like he could have perfectly fine go to any academy like spot, but he just won with no work the proving rounds, but he decides to take an off split. Like I think he just wants to have control over whatever he does, and I can respect it. Like I feel like that's a fine enough decision to go off, especially at this point in your career where maybe Worlds is not really the desire for you.
He also has to deliver presents every Christmas time, which you have to imagine takes a toll on a man.
That's a really random
Keep
one.
the beard, Zazel.
That's
Keep
the
the beard.
bit.
I love it. I love the beard, Zazel.
Let's go.
Whoop.
All right, let's do a super quick discussion of playoffs, just because we've already gone so long on our All Pro teams. We'll chat more on playoffs as they transpire. But to start things off here, we do have a playoff bracket from the NACL. Let's just run through each matchup, give some quick thoughts, and then we'll close out the episode. Starting things off in round one, it is going to be TL Challengers taking on Maryville University in a tight race.
So this is a bye week, right? Like this is a
Yeah,
bye
I
week for
forgot that
TLC.
one.
This is just a bye week. They don't even. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good practice match. I like
there's
it.
There's nothing to say. This is a 2-0. Move
This
on.
is Kanye West scoring 100 on a wheelchair basketball.
Hey, come on! I wouldn't go that far. Okay, it was
You hate
Bonfire.
Maryville. Why are
We
you
didn't say
defending Maryville?
anything.
Well, because he's actually watched Maryville this split, and they've had moments, and they've also, because you don't know, they've taken games off TLC.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Once again,
We'll come back
I'm
next
the
week and it'll
MU
be a
hater,
2.
by the way.
It's gonna be a 2-0.
It's gonna be a 2-0.
It'll be a 2-0.
Yeah, it's Maryville. Maryville
What a
is
fun one.
one Link's internet connection away from not even being here.
True.
That or just one brain turned on from Taco. Sorry, I shouldn't
Yeah.
have bring that up, but
It's
Well-
6 games of Lunasia away from maybe not
Yeah.
being here. Yeah. All right. So TLC 2-0. Well, we can move on. Their opponent coming in around 2 is going to be the winner of Fear versus Wildcard. This is the coolest matchup of the week. This one is worth maybe a little bit of discussion. This is really hard to call for me.
This is so difficult. It comes down to one thing for me. If Shochi can break through Saligo's passive play to give himself leads, I think Fear can win it. But I think it's going to be Wildcard 2-1 because I trust Keel more in these spots.
Wildcard 2-1.
I agree. I'm also on the Wildcard 2-1. What I think it's going to come down to is what Wildcard's cooking. Like, they're going to come in with... I'm really excited for this team in playoffs where they get, like, a whole week to really prep for one specific team. And that's specifically because, like, remember back to when Wildcard were able to 2-0 Team Liquid. What they did was, you know, they really came in with a solid game plan. They had the Sejuani mid with the carry junglers, the Belveth and the Viego. So, like, they had, like, a whole anti-mirror game plan there to, like, be able to invade and dominate through mid-jungle. And, like, they were very open that they were like, yeah, we drew this up because we wanted to beat Team Liquid. And, you know, this is how we thought best to do it. I think the way to beat Fear is, like, super obvious, right? I think you camp mid and you get some good, like, mid-jungle duos and you look to crush Shochi and you know that Shochi's going to be up in your face trying to carry the game. So I think that's, like, super punishable. I think Wildcard's the team to punish it. Yeah, I think they're going to come out here with, like, some really solid mid-jungle duos that are going to be really tough. Like, they're going to play, like, Oriana Shaco or some stupid garbage, and they're just going to be killing Shochi on cooldown, baby. So I'm also taking Wildcard.
This is a hard one to call, but I think that the big divide will be on how the second game goes. Because to me, Wildcard wins off of a streak. They don't 2-1 the series to me. They win 2-0. But I think no, but it's not my scoreboard. Like, I think if they win the series, it's off of a 2-0. Like, they win the first and they have to immediately win the second. Because I think that if they win the first one and they lose the second one, Fear win against them 2-1. And I think it's going to be 2-1 Fear.
Cool.
Fair.
Will be fun to
I
look
think it
back
goes
on.
3 regardless, personally.
You think what?
I think it goes 3 regardless.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's difficult to not say it goes to 3.
Yeah,
good matchup.
good chance. It's a good matchup.
Thank
That's
you,
the best game
Luke.
for sure. All right, let's keep going. Up next is going to be Fly Challengers up against the Evil
Ooh.
Geniuses Challengers. This might be closer than it looks, but I'm still going to take FlyQuest.
I'm taking them 2-0. I think
Yeah.
they
Yeah, this is.
shut out the Surdy the Surdy
Is that
lovers.
first team All Pro 30 right there?
It is first team All Pro 30, but it's like, I mean, it's third team All Pro UG and third team All Pro Spirax and first team All Pro Masu. So
Yeah, this is.
it's
this
gonna
is,
I'm gonna end up giving it to FlyQuest. I'm gonna say it's 2-1. I think EG sneaks one in there. But yeah, I think I gotta give it to Fly.
This
I
is
was
like
once-
hydrogen. Oh, I was just gonna say this is like hydrogen bomb versus coughing child for me of like FlyQuest 2-0.
I was gonna say I was once a dreaming child like Gordo and thought maybe
And then you had to
could
fight
get
a
one, but-
hydrogen bomb, and it all went downhill from there.
Czar Bomba came flying through.
Interesting example, but no, I just want to end this with 2-0 Fly C. I was thinking maybe there's hope, but honestly, it's CGC. Anything can happen, and anything can happen means something bad is going to happen.
Double-edged sword.
Fair. All right. Well, it sounds like we don't have any more hot takes on that one. Let's do DSG versus AOE before we close on out the series.
I think this one is 2-1 DSG, but I think AOE confidently take a game off of them.
Really?
I'm also gonna say
I also have 2-1 DSG.
Wow.
Yeah, me
I
too.
would say 2-0 DSG here. I think I like AOE. I think they've shown some cool stuff, but I think it's a little bit of a mismatch. I think DSG are like really, it's interesting. I think DSG have like the most binary matchups, right? I think they have a couple of teams in this bracket where they are just like super well equipped to beat them. I think one of them is AOE. I think the other one is Fear. Because like Fear just wants to fight you all the time, and I think DSG then like get a good opportunity to flex their mechanics. I think the AOE one in particular, it's almost like the reverse. Like I think AOE is going to have a lot of difficulties when they just get like straight up skill checked in every lane by a team like DSG or by a team like Fear. Like I think that's where AOE I think is going to have more struggles to me. I think Will might be able to build up some advantages in the jungle, but I think it's probably not going to matter. I also think that the top lane diff is going to be a massive problem in this series. I think Fake God is going to demolish Concept.
Yeah.
So AOE, be on the lookout for Quacker in this offseason. I think that's a good choice for you guys.
Didn't they play with Quacker?
Yeah, they did in the promo
promote.
relegation tournament. They did also some whisperings behind the scenes. They were also looking at Quacker for this split, and they decided to go with Concept.
Guess not, yeah. So I want to just go with the DSG here to also follow up on something for later, and it's that this matchup and the Fly C1 are to me the ones that will indicate if DSG is going to win it all or not. One, because I want to see them win this one consistently, which I think is one of the hardest parts. And then the next one, because I think that Flyce is probably going to be their toughest matchup because of bot lane. I feel like in the rest of the map, there's a good matchup between both of them. But Flycy is the one place where they completely outclass the other side is bot lane. And it's particularly because of the AD carries. I think supports are quite close. AD carries is the main difference, really. And I think that's why DSG, these are the two matchups that I really want to look closely for DSG. And depending on the outcome, I can say confidently that they would be champions. I still would think, and maybe this is a hot take or not, I think DSG is going to win it all. And I'll just say it from now, right now. I think DSG wins it all. But these are the two matchups that really will tell me if I can say it confidently or not.
I'm still picking TLC to win it all. I think they've, especially with Harry, I think he's
it's fair.
He's smurfing on fools.
I've got a EG chat. No, I'm just kidding. I got TLC.
I am stuck between TLC and Fly C, and I will not be making a pick till after this week because I think round one opponent matchups are a good way to tell.
Is he allowed to do that?
You know
There's
what
no
also I
rules
will
here,
do?
Bonfire.
No-
It's the Wild West. So
It's kind of.
You know what? I will also go one step farther because I kind of want to look good if it does happen. I think the grand final, not winners, the grand final is DSG FlyC.
Okay.
Wow.
spicy. Might get a preview of that coming in around 2. So
Yeah.
That's true.
that'll be a fun thing to talk about on the show next week. But we're over 2 hours now, so we're going to close things out here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this far. I'm sure there's going to be some fun highlights to be clipped from all of our All-Pro discussions. And we'll be back next week to break down first week of playoffs and start getting into some real playoff predictions for deeper into the bracket. So not going to want to miss that one. We are going to see you there. Until then, stay tuned to the NACL, and thanks again for tuning in.